Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our July council meeting. Today is July 25th, Tuesday, and it is 7:11 p.m. At this moment, I'd like to go ahead and have a moment of silent meditation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, may I please have roll call?
Roll call, Mayor Cubillos.
Here.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Here.
Councilperson Mathis.
Present.
Councilperson Dreyer.
Present.
Councilperson Roman.
Here.
Also present for the record, David Roseman, Village Manager. Jason Silverford Joe Geller, Village Attorney. Eugene Morales. Here. Sergeant Huffnagel. Erwin Williams, CFO. Janice Jacoby, Village Clerk. You have a quorum.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Wow, we have more people coming in, okay. At this time, I get a motion of, I have one change, but am I get a motion of approval of the agenda, or are there any additions or comments?
The date change on the top?
We have to change the date to reflect July 25th as opposed to June 27th.
And,
It was changed in the revision that I sent.
Okay,
and I'd like a moment before we go into committee reports.
a moment before you, okay. And two things, so where would you like me to put that at?
Right before we do committee reports.
Right before committee reports, so that would be right after, during my report?
Right.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Before your report.
Before my report, okay. So right after the resolutions.
Yes, please.
Okay. Two small additions. F2, swearing in of police canine. In front of police should be community police canine. And then Arctic, I believe the sergeant spells it ARCTIC. What was the other comment I had? That's the other one. And I don't believe Officer Rigo is going to be able to make it, so we can take out F1. And that concludes. And the state of Florida check presentation is by Senator Daphne Campbell. Add the word senator. No more additions on my part. Are there any other additions or comments from the council?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right, hearing none, may I have a motion of the agenda with the revisions?
Approve a motion.
The motion's been made by Councilperson Mathis and second by Councilperson Roman. May I get us, all in favor say aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. At this time, let's go into the approval of the minutes for June 27th. Does anybody have any revisions?
A, the change of the date on top.
Why?
Because the meeting was.
Sorry. Wait, the meeting called toward May 23rd, June 27th. Okay. Any others?
Oh, mine has the right date.
I have a couple. Any others? Councilperson Joe, you have one?
Not so far right now.
Okay.
I'm just commenting on the notes.
Oh, okay. F on page 2 of 6, F2A, Chief Morales introduced Officer Julio Lopez as an Army Reserve individual. We have to correct individual as INDIVIDUAL. The next thing was Charles White is from Frederica Wilson's office, not Mayor Carlos Jimenez. And then I had a question mark with Representative Hardeman because I don't remember him being here at that meeting. So that was my question mark. I don't know if the council remembers him being here at that meeting.
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so let's take out Representative Hardeman. I don't believe he was here.
Someone from his office was here.
Was here for the
Yes.
June meeting?
There
Okay.
was, actually.
A representative of Hardeman's office, okay. The other one I had was H3B, a motion to enter into a month-to-month contract with our current firms. That's two. There should be an S at the end of firms. And then after, it should be with our current lobbying firms, Ackerman and Southern Strategy. We only have Ackerman on here. So we have to add and Southern Strategy and an S to firms. The other one I had was on page 3 of 6, H6B. Mayor Cabillo stated that she had voted no on the prior council meeting on this matter because there was still a lot of questions not answered about the process in selecting a firm. And she didn't feel 100% comfortable voting yes with the residents' concerns. So after answered about the process in selecting a firm. And then H6, oh no, not that, I corrected that, it's fine. And then in page 406, where it says, after the resolution of wastewater facilities plan, Mayor Cabillo's opened it for public discussion. The motion underneath it, I don't think it belongs there. A motion to postpone second reading of this ordinance, I think that needs to be striked. Am I correct? Okay, stricken. Yep. Okay. And I think those are it that I had. Any other comments from the council on the minutes? All right, hearing none, may I get approval of the minutes for June 27th with the revisions by Councilperson Roman and myself?
I'll move approval.
The motion's been made by Councilperson Mathis. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Councilperson Dre. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty. So the minutes to the June 27th meeting pass. Thank you. The next thing we have is F1. Officer Rigo is not here to receive his plaque that we have for him for his years of service. So we're going to go right into swearing in of community policing K-9, sort of a special moment for us. One of the things that I believe we have been passionate about is community policing, is sort of who we are as a community. It represents who we are. So as I told the Herald when they asked me, what do you think about the cane? And I said, well, our community loves dogs. Our community loves our community policing. So I think it was a win-win. So as a result, I believe he passed all his training. I believe he passed all his classes and tests, so he can officially be sworn in as our El Portal community policing dog. So Sergeant Huffnagel, with the approval of the manager and the chief, has allowed this to happen. So I want to thank the administration for letting that happen. And I also want to thank present here today, I believe we have Dr. Your name is like my last name. I'm so sorry. Okanka. Okakwa. I got that? Okay. Okakwa, who has been a tremendous community partner. She opened up her business, the pediatric office. She sponsored our Easter egg hunt, and now she's sponsoring the dog, and she pays for all his medical expenses. So an applause to her before we swear in the dog. So thank you. Stand up, you should be recognized. And there's one more resident. Is he here tonight? No, he's not here. Okay. There is another resident who is an attorney, Mr. Chow, who lives right here off of 89th Street, who also contributed to the funding to be able to purchase food, his medical. Listen, if any of you own dogs, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. So we have to applaud those efforts. So thank you so much. So now we're going to swear in our canine. I have it right here.
Is he going to respond?
So he says to move.
Okay, so
Need a phone? Need a phone?
okay. I, Arctic, do solemnly pledge in the presence of the ever-living God that I will honor the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Florida. I pledge to support the entire El Portal Police Department, and as a K-9 for this amazing department, I will faithfully perform the duties of my assignment to the best of my skill and ability. Welcome. If the council can show me down in a photo? Yeah. Anyone in my office also come? Yeah. Okay. And, Dad? David, come down. And Doctor? Okay, close. We all took a shower before coming today.
You don't know what side it is.
Right in the middle. Senator Campbell, would you like to be in the photo too?
Great. One second. He's getting a video. Can you run a little more back?
Can I do it this way, please? I am not. I'm sorry.
Archie.
Got it. Thank you.
He's such a good boy.
Well, I'm gonna have to go back down again. Huh? Huh? Oh, yeah. You know her. Yeah, she's here. In the front. Say hi. How'd you know her? Oh, shit, I forgot to mention. Hi, God, I'll have to monitor. Okay. Who? Okay. Before we go into the State of Florida check presentation from Senator Daphne Campbell, I'd like to mention that we do have Commissioner Cejas here joining us today, so thank you for joining us today. We also have Captain Carroll from the City of Miami, our own resident, our very own resident. And then, of course, all the distinguished residents here today. Thank you. At this time, we're going to come back down again as Senator Daphne Campbell is going to present our $550,000 check that El Portal received from the state of Florida. We should be very proud. Woo! It's a big moment for us. So we're going to come back down, the whole council, to take a picture with Senator Campbell. You can join me to come down. Let's go.
Before, Mayor, you start, can I give a little bit, can I talk to the resident, let them know a little bit before, please? Give us a few minutes. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. All right. Okay, I have a little booklet. I'm going to pass it around to tell you what's going on in Tallahassee. I'm going to be very brief, and I want you to go to page, I'm going to go very brief, to page 19 for the Village of El Portal fundings with the application, everything. And everybody knows it's been, I was a state representative for 6 years, now I'm a state senator. For 6 years, I could say for 5 years straight, I got the money for Village of El Portal. And Governor Scott vetoed the money every year. But this year, you know, you got the cutest mayor who went to Tallahassee, and I don't know what she did to them. When she went in front of the chair was so impressed and said, I think I like this woman, Senator Campbell. And he falls in love, and everything we ask, we get it. So, Madam Mayor, keep it up, because next year we're going to ask them for more money.
You gotta get more.
So this is what we get from Tallahassee. And I could tell you, being a Democrat, it's not easy for you to get money in Tallahassee. It's very hard. It's a big challenge. But me personally, because the way I work with both sides, and we are from pages 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. That's money I, myself, work so hard, tirelessly, with my great lobbyists, you know, Nelson Diaz, and how can I forget you, Eli? Eli, come on, stand up, let people see who you are. You know, but doesn't matter, but let them see you. And we work very hard to get El Portal what they need. And I'm hoping next year we ask for more money. and we ask for more projects in Tallahassee. At this moment, we're going to present for the first time for 7 years in Tallahassee. For all the money Governor Scott been vetoed for past 5 years, we got something this year from $82.5 billion. It's nothing, but it's something, and we should appreciate it, and we should be proud. We have a great council. Listen, next time I'm coming here, I need to say commissioner, please. Like that council, I don't like it. So it needs to change because El Porta going big time now. He gotta be mayor and commissioners. You hear, Miss Madam Mayor?
I agree.
So next time, please, commissioners.
As a
So,
pleasure of the
you know,
council.
I want that because commissioner sounds nice. Council is too hard, you know what I mean? So please, so let's get, come on, let's
Thank
get to
you.
work now. So we're gonna present the check. It's $550,000 they get from Tallahassee from $82.5 billion. So basically, truly, they work very, very hard. They always in Tallahassee. The mayor is there every week basically, to advocate for you guys. So thank you for choosing me to voice for you in Tallahassee. And I love you all, and I know for sure next year we're going to do bigger and bigger and bigger. May God bless. Come, Mayor. Everybody got one? Okay. This is the mayor. Look at it good. 550, 550,000. It's not $550.
Are we, Madam Clerk, are we centered to the seal?
Yes, you can see this.
Are we centered to it?
No, a little bit more this one.
Take that picture. Well, man, we work hard for this.
Okay, I got it. I got it. This is going to the White House. We're going to send this picture to
We're
them.
going to send it straight to Wisconsin.
Okay, I took like 10.
Hold on. All the residents, can you please join us with that picture because it belongs to you. That's your city. Come, all of you. Please come over. We work hard for you, all of you. Come on. All of you. Even you visiting us, you belong to us. Come, you too, from Broward. You come, let's move forward. Awesome.
Gotta squeeze it more in. You want to come forward, huh?
But Diana's a resident. Diana's a resident.
I'll take it.
Because you're not in the right church. I got to try hard. You got to squeeze even more. Do you want to be in the front, ma'am? Yes. No, you don't want to be in the picture?
I want to see your face.
Madam Clerk, you should get in.
Madam Clerk,
I can't wait.
you call me every minute. Come. Can you take the picture for us, please? Yes, Madam Clerk.
Let me squeeze in somewhere.
What's that?
Next year, gonna be 2 million.
Yes, you're leaving, I know, bye, thank you, nice seeing you guys. Yes, yes. Yeah, I know you have to go to the right.
Good to see you.
No, but thank you
I
for
didn't go.
coming
My
down, that
wife
was
took
perfect.
them. That's why I didn't go. I
I
should
didn't
have
even know you
told
were
you.
gonna be here.
She's here for me.
She was here for you? Oh, okay, cool. Excellent, thank you. Eli, nice seeing you. Thank you for everything. We'll talk to you very soon. We can leave it by the piano if any resident would like to take it. Thank you, Senator Campbell. Okay. At this time, we're going to go right into good and welfare. If anybody here has any comments, suggestions, this is the time to present it to the board. Hearing none. We have first up our year-to-date financials by our CFO, Erwin Williams.
Good evening. You should all have in front of you the packets for the 9 months ended June 30th. Okay. If you turn to the first page, we're going to take a look at the revenues first. The first thing I want to point out is that the ad valorem, all the ad valorem taxes for the year that we budgeted for have been collected. We collected 100% of our ad valorem, as you can see on the first line. What I'd like to point out are some of the areas where we're going to miss the mark this year. If we go down to permits, licenses and permits, and we look at license and permits as other, those are the miscellaneous permits besides building permits. We're only at 16% of budget. It was only $25,000 for the year, but we're going to fall well short of the $25,000 for the end of the year. And for next year, we will modify accordingly for next year's budget. If we go down a little further, we go down to the charge for services. We can see, again, hall rentals is another item. We budgeted $15,000 for the year. To the end of June, we're only at $3,600. So again, we're going to fall well short on hall rentals over what we had initially budgeted at the beginning of the year. Those are the few line items that I wanted to point out that looks like we're not going to meet the mark on those items.
I have a question.
Yes.
On franchise fees and electricity, in May year-to-date, it was $37,000, but when I look at June, it went down to $31,000. Is there a reason for that?
Posting error.
Posting error.
And also for electricity, they're always 1 or 2 months behind. So, it's going to take, we're right now, I'm only getting probably for the month of April and, not for May or June. So we'll catch up later on, and I'll have to do an accrual at the end of the year to estimate what it would be for the final 2 months. Questions on the revenues before we move on to the department budgets? Now, we're 75% of the way through the year as of the end of June.
And then I guess, would the same thing apply to miscellaneous, where at the end of May it was at $17,000, but at the end of June it's at $12,000?
Same thing.
Posting error. And who does the posting?
Beg your pardon?
Who does the posting?
Carlene mainly.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Did anybody leave their iPhone or lose their phone?
I'll take it.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions on the revenues before we move on to the individual department budgets? Now, as I said, we're 75% of the way through the year. So if you see in the bottom, it's in green, which means we're under 75%. I'm not going to discuss any line items in those specific departments unless a council person has a specific question on one of those line items. So if we go through village council, you see we're below 75%. We're at 69% as of June 30th. I have really nothing to say about that. I did go through for the council people's request and did find some posting errors that have been corrected. So most of you that had that $650 charged to your account, that has been removed from each council person, and your balances have been adjusted accordingly. Questions on council? Okay, if we move to finance administration, it's the same as it was last month. We have specific line items that are over. Unbudgeted line items, going down to contractual services for the news director. And again, that is also, there's a posting error in there also, because lumped in the news director is the retention record manager, which is the work that's being done for David to clean up all the records for the village.
So where would I find that at?
If you look near the bottom, it says contractual services other. I think what I'm going to do next month, I'm going to put line numbers on each one for you, and I'll refer to the line number. I think it'll be easier for you.
Oh, so that $11,000 was not the news director. It is the young lady. The lady that was hired.
It's part of 5,600 of it is the news director, and the balance belongs to the records retention.
And what is her name?
Darlene.
Darlene what?
Harking.
Harking?
Yes.
Now, I identified these yesterday, and for next month's meeting, all these adjustments will be posted and corrected. Okay. Office supplies is one area I need to take a look at. We're way over budget on office supplies. We budgeted $7,500 for the year. We're already at $10,500. We're $3,000 over budget with still, a few months left in the year. So I want to take a look at that to make sure there's nothing in there that, like computers that should have been capitalized or other expenditures. I'm going to review that in detail. If we turn to the planning and zoning on the next page, again, it's no different than last month. The one line, of course, is the professional services and the master plan consultant, and most of that is going to be, I would say, Placerbia and Craig Smith for those charges. As we talked about in the last meeting, as you can see in the notes, $61,000 has been moved over to the stormwater budget, which is for the stormwater master plan, sanitation sewer master plan, excuse me.
So where would the line item be for Pannoni that was just added?
It would go in there,
It would go in what department?
planning and zoning.
Okay, but it hasn't been added yet.
What month? Well, it depends. What month was it for? What month did the expenditure
Well,
take place in?
well, the resolution was done last month.
So if it's not in June, it may be next month's in July. It'll probably
So
be
you'll-
the July
So
expenditures.
you, okay.
And what I'll point that out in the next financial. I'll put a footnote beside it to say what's in there, so you'll know what the breakdown is between the various vendors. And David, on master plan, where are we as far as the charges go? Are those going to continue to the end of the year, or that basically we reached the limit on those at this point?
Yep.
So where we're over now is basically where we're going to end up at the end of the year.
Say that again, Erwin?
That we're not going to have any future charges for the months of July, August, and September for the last quarter.
So we won't have any charges for 2 plus Serbia?
Yes, we will have charges.
But I don't know if it's going to keep at the same level that it was in the prior months.
There is,
This is going to be one item that we're going to have to do a final budget amendment on and adjust at the end of the year.
And clearly, it was much higher because we went through form-based code and there was all that going on in
Right.
terms of land use.
Which we
matters.
never anticipated or budgeted for at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
Next department is village clerk, again, under budget.
So, just a quick question.
Sure.
Sorry for the interruption. On this line item that is being proposed, looking at the budget, and I know we had approved the police cars. How is that falling in place with the current budget, the upcoming budget, or this line item proposal of money?
I was going to ask that in public safety.
Okay.
I was gonna
But
ask
can
that in
I,
public
can I,
safety.
can I
Yeah, let's do it.
let him answer?
Let's do it in public safety.
And when I get to public safety, we can
Okay.
I'll convene that and we get
Good.
to public safety.
Okay.
Village clerk, again, we're under budget at the year to date. There's really nothing to discuss with village clerk. Public affairs, again, we know that we're over budget. We talk about this every month, that we have revenue on the other side. And if you turn the page, you'll see the actual expenditures as well as what revenue has been brought in to offset those expenditures. It's right after, it should be the sheet that has the blue arrow on it, if you all have it.
And also, you have on page 3 of 15, under miscellaneous, you have year-to-date, I think it's what, 12 or 17,000 that have a revenue that and also has special events, correct?
Right, that's correct. But if you look on the side, the revenue is right there. We
Yeah.
have $15,934 of revenue to offset the $36,000 of expenditures, so our net is really about $20,000 net on the events.
Okay.
And I don't think we have, how many more do we have to the end of the year now? There's really not much left.
What month are we in? We're in July. We have August, September. The backpack giveaway, I've never taken out of public affairs.
So I don't anticipate those expenditures are going to go too much more between now and the end of the
Okay.
year.
Now, I'm sorry, this didn't factor in 4th of July, though? Because this is till the
No,
end of
because
June.
probably expenditures aren't
Got
in
it.
yet, so that
Got
will be
it.
added next month.
Okay, got it. Councilperson Romero. The 80th anniversary will be December, so that's into a new fiscal year.
Yeah, that'll be part of our budget for the
Okay.
for the coming year.
Okay.
The next budget is the police budget. Currently, we are under the 75%, we're at 70%. But as Councilor Pedrero just pointed out, we are going to have an expenditure that will hit in August or September for $140,000 for the new police cars that have been purchased.
I was going to ask a question about that as well, because I didn't see it on here. 2 questions I had. The payment is, I know the last time we purchased cars, they were done in 3 different payments. Will this be one big payment because we actually purchased the cars?
Yes, it's not a lease, so it'll be one payment for the full amount, and versus a capital lease, which we paid it over with over 2
And do
or
we
3
know
years.
if we're going to get them in August or September, or do you think we can actually push in October? So that it can be a new fiscal?
Well, we could push it, we could push it to October, depending when.
That was the question I had, 'cause I
But
didn't
once
see
the
it on
cars
there.
are here, we're going to have to take them into this, we're not going to
Okay, so
postpone
I
for
guess we'll
next
have to
year's
see
budget.
when they actually arrive.
But I believe the chief told me that they're due probably by mid-August.
Okay. And then I didn't really see much of a surplus. It was unexpected for Officer Regal to leave. So I didn't really see the surplus like I thought I would. I mean, I guess because it's probably too recent.
But remember, he just left, so you.
So we would probably see it at the end of July.
You'll see at the end
Okay.
of July, you'll
Okay.
see a difference between, on the gross
thought you left in
salaries,
May.
you'll see that difference.
Okay.
But it's not going to be a huge difference, it'll be a
Okay.
small difference.
Was there, and then my question to Officer Regal leaving, was there a payout of any kind for vacation pay?
Yes.
And how much was that?
I don't have the exact number.
We don't
for
have
that.
it yet?
No, not with me.
Okay.
But it wasn't the number that we're looking at with Chief Morales or with David Adams.
Okay.
It wasn't anywhere near that number. It was mainly, I believe, as a matter of fact, he had used up almost 100% of all his vacation pay. All we really paid up was his sick pay.
Okay,
So it was not a large amount.
okay.
Just a quick question. Want to bring it back to vehicle purchase. We consider, do we have multiple options? Are we going to pay one lump sum for the total number of vehicles, or can we do monthly, perhaps financing over the spread of, just to say, 3 years, 5 years, and that way we can perhaps avoid having an expenditure of, $140,000? Have we looked at that avenue?
No, but by the same token, you're also going to be incurring interest expense if you start financing it. The whole
No, of
idea
course,
of not
there's
leasing
interest.
it was to purchase so we could
Correct.
save the $36,000 of interest cost on the cars.
No. The analysis was consisting on a lease versus purchase.
Right.
So now we've agreed on purchasing the cars. So when you purchase a car, you have that option, okay, let me just, pretty much move forward with maybe the 0% something interest on purchasing a car versus a lease. So that's why I'm asking that question. Have we explored with the dealer? Does the dealer have that flexibility, whether we can pay in the next 3 years at a 0% interest rate, since we're a public entity? That's just a
I
question.
doubt if it's 0%. I'm sure there's an interest factor.
Correct, yes.
What it is, I don't know. But then, if we were going to do that, we might as well just have leased the cars in the first place and not
No,
purchase
but
them.
we haven't explored that possibility.
Unless it was
And-
zero interest,
yeah,
right.
Exactly.
I
So
mean, David, can you just check with the chief? I don't, and see if they.
The other, yeah, and the other thing, and just to the point, to address Councilperson Dre's concern, the last 2 years, we as a council meet at a budget workshop and we identify legislative priorities. For the last 2 years, we've allocated $20,000 to $25,000 to the police budget to use for them. They haven't used it. The first year went by, they didn't use it. The second year went by, they didn't use it. I think they bought the body cameras, which if you've heard at the public safety meeting, I've asked for them to return it, let's get a refund, because they're sitting at a room. So that's why I'm insistent on getting the returns of the body cameras, and I'm insistent on using the money, because we've actually for 2 years allocated money for the department, and it was never used. Clearly, we use a little more than we anticipated, but I think the numbers worked. But if there is a way, David, that you can, if there's 0% interest rate, I mean.
Call for the question.
Yes, call for the question.
yeah, and just so yeah.
What's the purpose of drawing out the payment as opposed to just paying it?
Because the point was just brought up, we're going to have to sign an expenditure over $140,000. That means that we're going to be tapping into our refunds, whether we have spent it in the previous years. But my concern is just to be cognizant that we have some reserves and try to see whether we can not just give that lump sum money at once, versus having, maybe having a pay
But
period.
you can't just say, I'm going to take in 1/5 of the cars when you purchase them. From an accounting standpoint, you're going to have to recognize the entire purchase of the $140,000 with a liability offset as maybe a loan payable, but you're still going to have the expenditure
Correct,
showing.
and we're purchasing the cars, and we can depreciate those on our books versus going through a lease option. So I think that's one of the major incentives where we went with purchasing versus leasing, because we cannot depreciate those cars. Now that we're moving forward with the purchasing piece, I just want to explore that possibility, whether we can look with the dealer. And I'm sorry,
No.
we already talked to
What
David.
you really said was not correct to begin with, because if we had gone with leasing instead, it would have been a capital lease, and we still would have depreciated the cars, because a capital lease is the same as buying the car, and you take depreciation on a capital lease.
Okay, that was my main point when we did the financial analysis here was brought up, and I was understood that, and it was communicated that there, and I have the emails where I'm being communicated that there's going to be no depreciation.
Interest. It wasn't depreciation, it was
and
interest.
as well the depreciation of the assets. I have that email.
No.
Yes.
No. It was interest expense. There wasn't going to be interest expense because if we purchased, there was no interest. If we lease, there's an interest cost that's going to be on
Okay.
top of the lease payment.
Well, never the fact that let's explore
But why are we
that.
discussing, I don't understand why we're discussing this now, because we've already made the decision to purchase the cars.
No, correct. I
Paying it-
agree.
If we have the cash in the bank, it doesn't make sense to finance it and incur additional debt to pay for the vehicles. It just doesn't make sense.
I agree. I agree. It makes sense that we can perhaps explore whether we can work with the dealer of 7%.
Now, what you're saying
and then
makes sense.
spreading out.
Right.
That's
If we-
my
If we could
request.
spread it out from the standpoint, from a cash flow standpoint, where there's no interest expense, which is going to be added on to the burden for the village, then yeah, sure, that would make sense.
That is my request.
Right.
And
So-
that is where.
And David's going to check with the chief and get back to you.
And my request is not despite whether in the previous years we've spent it, overspent it on the budget, but let's look at that avenue to be respectful that, of our current reserves. So there's where I'm coming from.
Right,
I
sure.
appreciate it. Thank you.
David, when can you have that by for us?
I don't know exactly what it will take, but, I will say by the budget meeting.
Workshop, August 5th?
Yeah.
Perfect. Sounds good. Okay, code enforcement?
Code enforcement, again, we're under budget year to date. There's really nothing to discuss about code enforcement. Same with Public Works. And remember, I did give you in the last meeting, at the finance meeting, I gave you those projections for where we're going to end up the year. Do you recall?
Yes.
If we take a look at the last page, we can take a look at our cash balances. We now have all of our Florida Community Bank accounts opened. I have contacted the state and the county. I have to print them out, but I just got back the authorizations for the ACH transfer, so now they'll go directly into the new bank accounts instead of Bank of America. And we've got our credit card system up and working, so now that on the building permits, we are taking credit cards. And I have put controls in place to make sure that every day when they batch out, that everything balances, that all the checks that went into the system, they were recorded, they were deposited, and that system is in place and working right now. But you can see here the breakdown of the account. You can see that in the FCB account right now, there was 1.793 million, but that's because the reserve account hadn't been set up yet, and the 1 million is going to come out of there and go into the general fund reserve account, which we had, same thing we had in Bank of America.
I have a quick question on page 12. When I take a look at your closing fund balance, is 1206457,
Right?
but when you look at the end of May, it's 1252712. What's the discrepancy? Where did it go?
Because remember, it's your opening fund balance plus your income less your expenses equals your closing fund balance.
Okay, no, I checked it
So
through.
if you
Okay.
have more expenditures in the following month,
Okay.
then that number is going to change accordingly because it's on a year-to-date accumulation.
Got it. Okay.
Questions? We looked at the cash balance. I didn't talk about the special revenue. Did I need to sit down with David and review the stormwater project? We just got a check for $550,000. The one thing I did want to bring up, even though it's really not part of the financial, we should have already held an initial budget workshop, and we haven't done so yet.
Yes.
So that we need to tonight set up an initial workshop where we all get together, all have a preliminary budget ready for the workshop
Okay.
that we can discuss and decide what we want to do for the coming year.
So based on what we received from the county, you will give us an estimated tax roll of what we anticipate to get for the new year, and we'll determine how much more over that is for this year, and then we can
Yeah,
focus
what
on-
I'm going to do is I'm going to take the schedule I gave you at the finance meeting, which is the projection to the end of the year. I'm going to use that as a basis to project for next year, based on where we think we're going to end up. We'll adjust for the ad valorem based on the new property values we just received, the final property values. And then we'll also discuss what projects from a special revenue
Yeah.
standpoint we want to undertake next year. Like for the
Absolutely.
550,000, what are we going to do with it now? And how are we going to phase it?
Well, let's designate it to a project that we submitted, which was the El Jardín project. That can't go for anything else.
No, but
That's state money.
we have to break it down between engineering and design
Oh,
and all the
absolutely.
other areas.
That ties
So-
around to that particular
Right,
project.
right.
Yeah, in fact, I already sent David an email about
Right.
that,
And
as
then
far
next-
as where we are, like,
Right.
you know.
And what else
A
do
to
we
Z.
need to project in the special revenues for
Absolutely.
next year? Street and road repair and other areas? where
Absolutely.
we have
I
to
just
take a
sent an
look at.
email to the manager and to clerk asking the council to start thinking of the legislative priorities. I know it's something that we should have done already, but so they're aware of that, they can put in ideas that they have, and collectively, we agree on what the priorities are. We're going to work for the new fiscal year, and then that's the way we move forward with David, with our lobbying firms, with everybody. It's not done individual, it's done as a group.
Eunice, when is the next finance meeting? Is it on the 10th? of the month? Do you know?
For next-
September.
September.
Oh, we don't have one in August?
No, we don't have any
So
meetings in
maybe
August.
that would be a perfect, if we could take maybe a Thursday night and hold a budget workshop where we can all get together and discuss it?
The chair,
I already scheduled one,
Yeah.
Sorry?
August 5th. Already scheduled one.
That's a Friday?
It's a Saturday.
I don't have.
Then let's not pick a Saturday. I'm not doing Saturdays.
Well, I was going to meet with you prior to, but this is,
Oh, I'll have a initial budget to you
He'll
by,
have to be here
I'll
for
have an
that.
initial budget to you by probably the 3rd.
And I think
By
you were out of
third?
town,
Yeah.
right?
Sorry?
I think you were out of town after that.
Yeah, I'm out of town until the 1st. So when I get back, by the 3rd, I should have a first cut ready for you.
now the budget workshop, Chair, he needs to be there. So I don't know if we need to revisit that. And I'm
Yeah.
not that available in April, so I don't know.
April.
I mean, August. While he's looking at a date, I have a question on page 14 of 15 on the Park and Recreation Fund, the revenue and expenditure sheet. I don't see the 20,000 from the Knight Foundation.
What page are you on?
I'm looking at May, sorry.
I was going to say, because I didn't give you special
I
revenue
know.
for June.
I'm looking at it, the May one, because I realized I didn't get it in June, so that's why I brought my May in. But Parks and Recreation, I don't see the 20,000 from the Knight Foundation for the nature trail.
We talked about, didn't we get that in at the end of the previous fiscal year, and we just haven't
But it
spent it
hasn't
yet?
been used, shouldn't it still be here?
But not, no, because it'll be sitting in fund balance because it was revenue for the prior
Make
year.
sure we don't use that, okay, fund balance, okay.
And what we'll do is when we're ready to spend it,
Okay.
we'll just transfer it in to offset the expenditure.
Okay. Because there was a whole email going back and forth about that, okay.
I will be checking the email while I'm out of town, so whatever days you give at least maybe 2 options on.
I'm thinking August 10th, but
Sorry?
I'll let you know. I'm thinking August 10th, but I'll let you know.
Okay. That works for me.
So that means we're canceling August 5th?
Yeah. Yes.
And I'm going to try to get you a copy of it ahead of time, so you can all formulate questions before we get to the meeting.
Yes, that would be great.
Thanks,
Okay.
Erwin.
So August 10th?
If you can
Is everybody
check
available?
everybody's availability before.
Okay, thank you, Erwin, appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're always telling me.
Next up, we have from the county, he's going to do, if you remember planning and zoning, Juan touched on design districts, and along with that, we received an email back in, I think Ana Maria first emailed me back in April, I don't remember, or probably earlier than that, and so here we are. Thank you for being
Thank you,
here
Madam
today.
Mayor and members of the council. Julian Guevara with the Department of Transportation and Public Works. Here to present, I thought I was going to be here in support of a resolution adopting these guidelines, but let me just introduce you to them. For those of you who are not familiar with the complete streets concept, complete streets are streets for everyone. They are designed and operated to enable the safe access of all users, including pedestrians, bicyclists, motorists, and transit riders, not only vehicular traffic. So these guidelines are aimed to promote walkability and having a future multimodal street network. I would like to note that the advancements in technology have also sparked the demand from the public for more shared use mobility options and for more efficient use of our public right-of-way. So what are these guidelines? These guidelines are not, I want to clarify that this is not a design manual. What this is basically a reference book that compiles the best national, the best practices nationally known on complete streets policy and design. It also establishes a uniform set of street typology based on our local context that all municipalities can use moving forward for planning and design. So what is this document good for? As I mentioned, it provides policy and guidance to everyone involved in the planning and design process for streets, engineers, planners, developers. Like I also mentioned, it sets forth the path for a context-sensitive street that accounts for all the users. Mainly, it improves safety, health, and mobility. And as a secondary benefit, in the long term, it will also improve sustainability, equity, and economy. Last but not least, it also promotes the first and last mile transportation component because, as I say, it promotes walkability and the use of alternative modes of transportation. And that's what we need for the first and last mile option. Just to give you a little bit of background, even though we're talking about complete streets since 2014, it was really in September 2015 when the BCC, the Board of County Commissioners, appointed a local action team to come up with a safer streets, safer people, safer streets action plan. And as part of that plan, there were several action items identified, one of them being the development of complete streets design guidelines. So on June last month, the BCC adopted a resolution adopting these complete streets design guidelines and directing the administration to introduce them into our designs moving forward. So what does that mean for the municipality, for the village? That means that the county would like the village to be creative during the planning and design process and to count on us for support to advance complete streets projects. And in the future, potentially benefit from dedicated funding sources that we may establish for this type of projects. We would like to have your support as we would like to have a unified vision and direction and also to leverage resources. So I had a little presentation here I couldn't load up, but I wanted to show you how this looks like. Today we have a complete streets design, a complete streets pilot project going on in the heart of downtown. It's on South 1st Street between Southwest 2nd Avenue and Biscayne Boulevard, 1 block south of Flagler Street. And what we're doing here is we are taking, this was a 3-lane road heading eastbound, and we took 2 lanes and we repurposed them. We're taking one to dedicate to bicycles. It's going to be a protected bike lane. And then we're taking the other one to dedicate to transit. And we did this in collaboration with, again, leveraging resources, in collaboration with the Downtown Development Authority, the City of Miami, South Florida Commuter Services, and the Health Foundation of South Florida. And so what we want to see is more of these projects. So I invite you to come by. You know, it's going to be close to ready next week. So, you know, whenever you pass by downtown, remember and take a look. And what the county wants is to continue working with all the different municipalities to move this type of projects forward. Our next steps would be to continue the process of sharing this material with all 34 municipalities. So far we have a commitment from 7, and I'm hoping that you guys are one of them, so that you can either adopt or endorse these guidelines so that your planners and your engineers can use them. Next, we will develop an avenue for municipalities to gather on a regular basis so that we can discuss barriers, challenges, and strategies for implementing this. I'm currently looking for funding. We're trying to get some funding from the Health Foundation so that we can get monies for those meetings. We will also be working internally to amend our design manuals, procedures, and to find funding sources for this type of projects. We will continue looking for partners, as I mentioned, hoping that the village can be one of them. And so, as I mentioned, I would like to respectfully ask the council to support this via a resolution adopting or sponsoring these guidelines.
Yeah, with the resolution didn't come to today's meeting, but I'm going to propose for it to go to the Planning and Zoning Committee meeting for full discussion, and then if it makes the motion to pass there, it'll go to full council in September. Awesome. So it gives us up to the attorney at a committee level to have the discussion with our planner who's here today as well at that meeting. But I'm sure, I mean, the council, please, if you have any questions. I mean, it's a lot to intake, and it's a big project, just like, when I saw you all and I heard you all at Miami Shores, I thought it was good for you guys to come in and present to the council so you guys can ask questions.
Julian, is there any pre-reads that we can reference to?
Any?
Like any pre-reads, any document available for us to start acquainting ourselves better?
Well,
yeah.
we have a link to this.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I shared that already with David, so maybe if you can forward to all the council members.
That'll be great.
Yes, so like I said, this document basically compiles documents from all over the nation, including federal standards and state standards.
Super. So yeah. If
Be forwarded to all of us.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I have one question. This program project, it can be implemented into only new projects or with the city the way it is now?
It can be implemented in your capital improvements program, or we can retrofit a road. It would just depend on what the village's plans are, mobility-wise.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. What was the address of, if we wanted to take a look, it was south?
Oh, it's downtown Miami. It's southeast, southwest, First Street, because it goes from southwest to southeast, from Southwest 2nd Avenue to Biscayne Boulevard.
Okay, southwest 2nd to
The ribbon cutting for that project would be August 17. We're going to have the mayor, the commissioners, everyone there, so you guys are welcome to attend.
Excellent, thank you.
What time?
10 a.m.
It was the 17th, you said?
17th, yes.
And so I think I didn't mention that we're doing that project as a pilot project, obviously, because we were taking 2 traffic lanes, and a lot of people opposed to that, but we want to show them what a difference it could make. And as part of the planning process for that particular project, an interesting fact that came up was that the road, which was a 3-lane road, had capacity for 24,000 vehicles, but in reality the road was being used by only 5,500 vehicles per day. And on the other hand, we had about 6,500 passengers, bus passengers, being either picked up or dropped off within the corridor. So, for us it was, obvious that we wanted to prioritize transit.
One of the things I asked him when we met was how much the project cost, and it cost how much?
Correct. This project, roughly $500,000 when you sum everything up. But like I said, we leveraged our efforts, and the county put about $330,000. The city of Miami did some improvements to the pavement. DDA did the outreach and the initial feasibility study, so we kind of spread it out. But our idea is, through other programs that we have, find low-cost, most immediate implementation methods.
One of the conversations that we've had back in the charrette and with Juan from planning, our planning department, is a pilot program, at least in Northeast 2nd Avenue. Several years ago, it was, I think I brought it up to you and to the manager that night, that morning when we were meeting, is we had talked about doing a pilot temporary program in Northeast 2nd Avenue. It didn't come to fruition, as I said, but I think that's something to explore, as the vision for Northeast 2nd Avenue is to be one that's more walkable, one that's more sustainable, to connect better to Miami shores, to connect better to Little Haiti as well. We're going to have development coming soon on 87th Street. And between 87 and 88, where there's going to be businesses, there's going to be restaurants. So, the envision of the charrette was to have families pushing their strollers and have parking on the side. So if there's something that we can do in terms of a pilot program, I think Northeast 2nd Avenue would be ideal.
And then you mentioned that the segments, either north and south, were already...
Their streets are narrow, correct.
Right, so it kind of makes sense when you mentioned it to me. So I look forward to working with you to try to make that.
Correct, absolutely. Juan, did you have any questions? Does the council have any questions for, no? Thank you so much for coming. It was so great to see you again. Un placer, thank you. Next up, we have waste management. I know at the meeting, I think at Public Works, we talked about bringing it to the council to see where we're at to ensure that we hire Solito. So if you can let us.
Yes. I have been in negotiation with Waste Management. There is, and I forwarded to our council, the avenues in which we can forego having to do an RFP, so that this period of transition where the village is going from a certain amount of residents to a much larger amount will be a particularly beneficial time to just create a transitional contract of 3 years, allows us to negotiate with our current server, with our current provider, and then once we have a better handle on exactly what our population is going to be, then have a RFP.
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely.
So,
do we know when we'll have that by, the agreement with them? Because I know.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that was needed to be done is to clean up all the folios. One of the things that we discovered as part of the trim was that we had more population, more properties in the folios that needed to be cleaned up. So thanks to Pluservia and their people, and some attentive work that we needed to do during this period of time, we have been able to do that. So basically, by the budget time, we'll be able to give you.
By August 5th, you'll have that
August
solid, August 10th. I don't know if I'm in town. Okay, so August 10th. Is the council okay with August 10th? As far as an extension, okay, we'll have it solidified. H3, Tischler Bice.
I'm going to ask Juan to help me with this item. We've been talking to Carson Bice
Okay.
and some of other people.
And just for the resident, this is a topic that we've been discussing for about maybe, like, I think 9 months now. And this is sort of one important component left that we must get done. As I've heard through a couple of them that Seth Kadensky already have permits out in the church. I think there's permits already out. So I think that this, it's a good time to sort of get the wheels moving here a little bit. This is a really important component so that developers can start. It's all yours, Juan. Juan from Preservia. Take over.
Juan Preservia Design. So what Tischler Bice has put together is a financial analysis of how the village is supposed to move forward. There are two ways to move forward with future development. One of them is, as you know, a development agreement, and another one is impact fees. Thank you.
And they also mentioned exactions, which I think is a little different, correct?
I'm sorry, say?
They also, I remember we met with them a long time ago, they mentioned, development agreement, impact fees, and maybe in the town of our sign, exactions would be another avenue that we can explore.
That's right. And different municipalities do it in different ways. There are thresholds on when and where you apply one or the other. In the case of El Portal, the few projects that are moving forward will take on different avenues. The future of the trailer park will probably be a development agreement because it's a master plan. It will be a master plan, and it will require a certain amount of open space and certain amount of civic space. Smaller buildings, such as we know that they're moving forward, the church, or
That makes sense.
different buildings that are moving forward on the east side, will probably be impact fees. Impact fees will kick in if there is a substantial change or substantial need to increase the services that the village needs to provide to residents. And those can be in different, and those can be applied in different ways. The reason why the code currently doesn't have that kind of language is because the village has never seen this kind of development. So I understand from both the manager and Carson that we need to come up with these thresholds and figure out when some apply and some others don't.
What is a recommendation for the annexed area where AJ and Ken Barrington will be putting up 2 apartment buildings?
So we will have to look at specifically if the village needs to provide additional services for its residents, police,
open space.
fire, open space, etc. And depending on that, we will have to apply. We will recommend that impact fees be applied to developments. And these thresholds depend, again, on either square footage or number of residents added to the village roster.
So, the question I have is, and I go back to a meeting that I had with AJ Barrington with the manager. I don't even remember how long ago that was. They, as architects and developers, they have mathematical equations that they figure out as far as what the cost is going to be for development, whatever. But the one last pending thing that they've been waiting for us was what is going to be your impact fee? Is it going to be an impact fee? So my thought process when Tischler Bice was hired was that aside from doing the impact analysis, they were actually going to also give us a schedule of fees or give us an example of what a development agreement would look like that would fit our town, our needs, based on the fiscal analysis. So the fiscal analysis is fantastic. We got it, I think, in June or May, but I think there's a missing step that within the fee that we agreed to pay them, they were going to do this. So, and I also think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not the expert in any way, shape, or form, Juan, and the attorney and the manager. If you are, please let me know. But I believe that this needs to be solidified before development starts. Right. Because if not, we have a missed opportunity. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. So with that said, when I find out that Seth Godensky, one of our developers, has permits out for just cleaning up, I don't know what he's doing with the church, these things have to get in place. So who needs to do it? Who's going to do it? And when are we going to have it? That's what I want. And I ask the council to, opine in, because this is an important matter. And, we've gotten really far with form-based code. We've gotten really far with other projects that we're working on, but this is sort of the missing link. And Juan, are you going to be working on this and then you're going to present to us? Is Tischler Bice going to request more money so that they can do this?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please. Please, the council, ask questions.
Why aren't they here?
They couldn't make it today. This was a date that they couldn't make it, but they had offered, times when they can. So.
But even if they didn't make it here, why doesn't this council have anything to review? Again, I'm not the expert, so I asked the manager, I asked Juan, and I asked the attorney, who is going to provide us this?
I can't speak for Tischler Weiss, and I can't speak for.
Is this something you do?
For the agreement that was signed, when this item came to us, we recommended to hire an expert for this specific item. It was my understanding that they were going to do this.
Yes,
part of the
it was my
But
understanding as well.
Again, I can't speak for the agreement.
And unfortunately, Councilperson Roman and Councilperson Jerry weren't here when they got hired, so they can't really probably, agree on that. But, Vice Mayor Nickerson and Councilperson Mathis, we agreed, when we hired Tischler Bice, we agreed on this. So the question is, when are we going to get it? I mean, we've paid, a good amount of money to them already. We still have monies pending to them because I don't see it's completely paid yet.
Oh, yeah.
So as a result, yes, please.
No.
Is this something that you do? What is your recommendation to the council?
So.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, very, very
Sorry,
quickly.
go ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like we're going in circles.
First of all, to Councilperson Roman's point, Councilperson Mathis's point, we discussed this. And even though they're not here, they could have sent something.
Yeah, I think they've heard it enough. I think they've heard it over. I think they've heard it in the
Accountability. That's what
we haven't even been. Have you been satisfied with what we've been asking for so long? And I thought we. Excuse me, ma'am.
No. Go ahead.
I thought we got to the point to where we were going to have a cutoff date, to where we were going to have some type of information come back to us.
I actually thought they were going to be here tonight. That was my understanding.
I mean, I want to know when we are going to get this, and the residents are here. They're probably thinking, like, what are we doing here? When are we going to get this? I mean, this is a serious matter. I mean, do we need to call them? I've never contacted Tischler Bice. It's not my responsibility as elected, but please let us know. Yeah, absolutely. When the developers want to meet, I don't want to only meet with them yet, because I don't have the answer that they're asking. So who can give us the answer? Are they going to do this? Can they do this? Have they done this?
Madam Mayor.
Do we know? Have we asked the question?
So just to break up the question a little bit, there's no one single formula for the development agreement. So
absolutely
not.
Absolutely not.
With regards to the impact fees, again, I recommended hiring the experts. I would expect them to at least give us some guidance.
Yeah.
We can, as we have done with the zoning and building fees, look at what other municipalities your size do, and and calibrate our impact fees based on that.
And perhaps we didn't ask enough questions when they got hired. I'm sorry, but my thought was they were going to do a fiscal analysis of our town. They were going to ask the questions about the projects, and they are the experts. And based on the projects, based on the fiscal analysis, based on our ability and what we have and what we're going to need to sustain these developments, this was going to happen.
That's exactly what the conversation was.
Okay, so I was not alone at the meeting. So yeah, thank you. So that's my impression. So are we asking the right question to this company to say, hey, we is that Commissioner?
Madam Mayor?
No,
I don't think it was that we're asking the right questions. I think that their follow-through is the problem.
But have we asked them, the commission wants this, what wants, based on your fiscal analysis, based on the development agreement, they need your recommendation and what an impact fee schedule is going to look like for a town of their size, for what they have, and for what they're going to need to sustain the future development. Are they going to need open space? Are they going to need more police? Are they going to need my big thing is they should invest in infrastructure because they're coming in. They should be investing in our aging infrastructure. So all that should be, but I'm not the expert on this. I'm here to just analyze it with the council, and then we decide based on the help of residents, what way we're going to go. So can someone just ask the question to them? Can they do this, and when are they going to do this, and when can we have it by August 5th? Have we asked them the question?
Yes, we have asked it.
And what has the response been?
Well, both of the response has been that they want to come in and present and give you that process because they don't see it as as a specific item. Both Juan and I have been trying to extract this from them. So they want to be here to say this is how we what we recommend. So I said let's bring them here. We still owe them over half of the contract.
Yeah,
so they are definitely in the hook to finish whatever it is that we ask them to complete. So
well, clearly they have no sense of urgency if they're saying that they can be here. We've been asking for basically what Juan has presented to us for what? Since the new council members have been on, and they haven't done it. So I think we need to hold their feet to the fire. And
well, they just finished their number analysis in May.
It's taken a long time.
So since May, we can say that they have been for the last 2 months.
But they've had it before that. They knew what we wanted.
So have they given us dates as to when they want to come and meet?
Yes.
Did we get them?
The dates?
What are the dates?
I'll forward them to you. This is one of the things that I wanted to see. There were some dates that he had, and that we want to see if we can connect them with the dates that we're going to be,
Do we have those dates now?
Yeah.
I didn't get an email. Did you send us an email?
No, I didn't send an email. Because I wanted to see what dates we were going to have the budget meeting so that we would have it all together.
Okay, if they're going to come present to us at the budget meeting, I'm okay with that. But when they come and present it, and council, what do you think is they need to come with something written to us, not just a verbal recommendation. They need to come with something written saying, this is what we recommend. You got plan A, plan B, plan C. And then, based on the size of our village, based on what we have, based on the projects. And really, they should be coming with 3 because we have 3 major developments, and per Juan, Trailer Park is going to be development agreement possibly, the church might be an impact fee, and Barrington might be an impact fee. So technically, there should be, giving us 3 different examples anyway, 1 per project.
But they've been given this already. Yeah.
They haven't given it to us.
They've been given this information already.
Yeah. And this is
in terms of the development agreement, I can provide the council examples from
that would be
from
great.
City of Miami.
That's a great start.
So, I mean, but like I said, development agreements vary greatly.
Yeah.
And I can also present to the council different approaches to impact fees.
Okay.
That I can do.
Okay.
Now, I'm not an expert to propose what kind of impact fees you should apply. But I can show you examples because I work with them all the time.
Okay, that would be great. I think that's a great start. And if you could send it to the clerk, and then the clerk would send it to the council, and the manager, excuse me, yes.
And Juan, correct me if I'm wrong. Is this your responsibility to follow up on this? Or is it ours? Meaning the village?
The agreement is with the village.
The responsibility is mine.
I'm here as an advisor.
Okay, got it. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. So I feel like this is the same conversation we had at our...
It is.
So to give you, if I may, sorry.
Yes. No.
If I may, so just to give you certainty, within the next week and a half, I will send to the manager examples that I've collected.
Okay.
And then we will talk to Carson within the next few days and tie down a time for him to come down. Is that?
And the tone of the email needs to be the tone of the council. And the tone of the council right now is that we're a little bit unhappy, to say the least. And it's unfair. It's unfair the way we've been treated.
Could he come for the next planning and zoning committee?
I mean, that...
No. we would need for them to be here before then, because the next planning and zoning committee is in September.
Yeah, we're not meeting.
So we need for them to be here, in the next.
And having that is sort of important to us as we plan the budget for the new year. So if they come to the budget workshop, if we have your information that you're going to give us, if they have something emailed to us, and then they can be present with tangible information that we can hold and we can use and we can read and we can give an opinion on as a whole a body, that is what we need. We don't need them to come in and present the fiscal analysis report.
Okay, but here we go. Are we putting the responsibility on Juan?
No,
Or is
no,
it-
the manager. No, the manager
okay.
has sent an email.
But I will send you examples that I have.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah,
For
okay. I
whatever-
just want to make sure I see you writing down,
Yeah.
and I just
As
want to
an
make sure
FYI.
that.
Yeah. So please, I mean, and when, I mean, I guess you'll let us know when if they can come in on August 10th, because what if they can't?
Well, the first thing that we want them to do is provide exactly what you're asking for. I have reached out to a couple of attorneys and a couple of people who have done this for the city of Miami as well. I want to make sure that they can be available, as to provide some examples, and I have forwarded them the information that we have received from Carson, so they can evaluate and say this is the way that we can provide you for suggestion. So I will give the council by the end of the week exactly what is going to happen.
Jason, is there anybody at Green Spoon that's an expert on this, that has a legal background on this type of,
I believe so. I've definitely-
something you might want to ask Joe Geller as well? Okay,
I've already,
okay,
informed Joe that
okay.
we're going to want to see that.
Madam.
Yes,
yeah,
please, go
And for
ahead.
the record, I'd like to have something from them before the 10th, before we have the budget
Right.
hearing, so
So we can,
at least 3 days before.
did you want to say something?
No, I think it would be great that definitely there's a string of emails. I'm just checking my phone, and perhaps we could, just kind of summarize. Somebody can take the lead in summarizing what specifically we're asking, right? So it's clear, it's documented in email, and that way we can.
Councilperson, I think it's very clear exactly what the council wants. And I think that Juan and I were pretty clear with Carson what you all wanted. So, to say that I am disappointed that we don't have the kind of information with regards to because I understand developers' agreements are negotiating tools, but when it comes to impact fees and how those things are triggered, because there has to be a trigger, and this is the part that is important for us to understand. Impact fees, the word says it, you have an impact on a particular issue, and therefore that is what creates the impact. So if these developments do not rise to the level of creating an impact fee, then we have to appeal to a developer's agreement. But if we are going to say that particular developments are going to force the village to create more streets, or force the village to have additional police force, etc., those are the numbers that we need, those are the formulas that we need to be able to
Yes.
say, this is the kind of stuff that you will, because your development is creating this kind of impact. And therefore, because you want to do it, this is how you have to pay for it.
Correct.
So this is the formula that we're talking about. Developers agreements, we understand it's just you want to do this.
Correct.
We let you, as long as you build us a doggy park somewhere else. But something like this is impact fees having to do with the property.
So they're clear on the requirements.
They
of
are,
what's
they're,
formula,
clear,
so it's
they're
more.
clear, they're clear under the
yeah.
requirements.
So it's
They're
more.
clear under the requirements.
We just need to reiterate it in
So
writing.
It's more, exactly. No, and that's what the email stated, but it's done, I just want to make sure then, it's a more of a vendor responding to us on a daily time, because I do see there's an email from July the 11th going out to them requesting those formulas.
Right.
But I just want to make sure, are we having any, it's a more vendor issue, because you're.
Well, the question that comes to mind, or the discussion that we have had, I think it was a discussion we had on a couple of Fridays ago, was are the developments going to trigger that level of development that creates an impact? and then can you assess what that fee should be?
Of course, yeah.
And that's the part that may require a little more processing on our part in terms of if this is going to be, let's say, another 500 residents, because we know that, for instance, the school board gets their numbers, says, well, we're going to have another 100 kids there, you're going to have an impact for another 100, to provide teachers, etc. But are the numbers of the developments are going to create that kind of level that creates an impact
To the community.
Which warrants an impact fee.
But excuse me, Councilperson Dre, but I guess what I'm concerned about and my frustration now is, I want to move on for this, but when we met with them, they were supposed to come in and interview the administration. And in those interviews, they were going to be asking those questions so that at the end of the analysis, they would have those answers. In the interview to the administration would be, okay, so if you're going to have two buildings that are going to go up at 83rd Street, what is going to be the impact? What is the possible residence? Exactly everything that you just said, I would have assumed. So now I'm concerned to think that those conversations hasn't taken place yet.
They haven't.
So that's a concern to me, because what have we paid money for? Because we have paid money to this company that has given us a wonderful binder, a wonderful presentation, a wonderful email, but I'm not really sure what the questions were asked, because those questions should have been asked already to the administration, saying, hey, what is going to be the impact for the church? What's going to be the impact for the agreement with the trailer park, and what is it for the annexed area? So now I'm thinking those conversations haven't been had, so now we have to go back to the drawing board and look, I guess, at the analysis, and he has to come back and interview the administration again, which I guess I don't understand that, because that should have happened already.
The interview should not be with the administration, it should be with the developers, because
the whole stakeholders. Yes, I agree, but they haven't happened yet, though.
Well, I don't know what they have had with developers.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
We haven't had a pre-application from any developer apart from apart from the church.
No, I know
without-
the Barrington brothers are in the process of the Brownsfield, and they're working with Durham in the county. But one of the components was they wanted to know what from our end, what did that impact fee going to look like, so they could also calculate it in their forecast of budgeting.
But without seeing their pre-application, it is very difficult
determine.
for us
Okay.
to determine what impacts their development are going to have on the services of the village.
But
have
in
they
their
even-
case, they have presented. They haven't put in an application, but they have presented to us in great length at that meeting what their intent is and what the forecast as far as a number of apartments in the building and la 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 la. So there has been that dialogue. So there could be some preliminary numbers that we can have an idea. Like,
Right. I mean, I agree with you. We can have a preliminary idea, but we cannot give them concrete numbers until we get a pre-application, which then allows us to move forward with concrete numbers and give them a real idea of what that impact is. And in order to get that idea, you first need that analysis, that fiscal analysis that Tishla has provided. So I mean, I hear you. There is frustration. Believe me, I'm frustrated too. But I don't think that these steps have been taken in vain. Number one was to get a financial analysis. We got that. There is no real application on the table. So as far as I know, no developer is being delayed because of this. So we're still within time to get Tischler to give us more concrete information, and we're still within time to talk to the developers and figure out exactly what they are proposing to build, and see if that impacts the current services.
yes, go ahead.
Sorry.
But even with that being said, knowing what the zoning is and what the zoning requires and what the village is looking for, they can still come up with something to present to us. And that's my sticking point. Because I remember having a conversation with the gentleman right in the aisle, and these were things that he said that he was going to get to us, and we haven't gotten anything.
And we got that request to give them max development capacity, and they calculated that into their fiscal analysis.
So
I don't have it.
It's in the fiscal analysis, looks at the maximum possibility, the maximum possible development, which they'll probably won't reach, but it is there. I mean, it's calculated within the fiscal analysis. Now, I'm not trying to I'm not trying to say that they shouldn't give us impact analysis formulas or at least trigger points, but that additional development at maximum capacity has been calculated within the fiscal.
So I think
Within the analysis.
to sort of wrap up here, I think there's sort of, there's two parts here. So number one, we need to obviously be in contact with Tishel Bies, let them know the tone of the council. But then I think we really need to reach out to the 3 developers and says, hey, we're at this point. So with that said, what is your intent? What do you have? What do you already prepare? So we can at least put the analysis together with what you have, and we can come up with an idea so the council can vote on it and agree on it, and we can move forward when you're ready. Because I'm sure they have something, an idea of what they intend to do and what their impact is going to be to them, to the village, and so on and so forth. Yes.
Just very, very quickly, I know you want to close this up very, very quickly. So the first thing that needs to be sent out is an email.
A phone call.
Detailing exactly what we want. Then it needs to be backed up with a phone call. And the phone call needs to be, did you get that email? They are at the end of their limit. This is very serious. Please adhere to the email. Also, and this is kind of tongue-in-cheek, but this was a great conversation that we just had. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Very detailed from you. As far as what we want. This recording needs to be played back, and Mr. Manager, we need to take notes from this recording. This is what they want. Point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4, and that's what needs to go in the email, because all the points of everything that we wanted. Because if not, Madam Mayor, I'm just scared and I'm fearful that we're going to be in another meeting. And we're going to be like, this is what we wanted. Like, this conversation we just had was perfect because it laid out everything in detail, exactly what we need and what we're looking for. So that's all I'm here saying.
Anybody else before we wrap up? Yes, sorry.
I know this is a different item, but it bodes reminding the new review procedures. The flow chart shows a pre-application review that's optional. That should be recommended for projects of a certain size. With this pre-application that we have in the flow chart, that will allow us to ascertain whether or not there's an impact fee before even an application is put forward. So again, I know it's a different item, but that's again the importance of Chapter 17, and reviewing this will help us determine these kind of projects and what needs to be built.
We're sorry for beating up on you every time you come here, Juan. But we appreciate you.
I'm a punching bag.
No, Juan, you've been great. Thank you. Anything else to the manager, to Juan, before we go to item number 4, 3? Oh, 2's twice. Each 1, 2, 3. We're number 5.
3, 3.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.
2, 3, 3.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Number 5 is the manager. At the Public Safety Committee meeting, we motioned out of the committee to come to council as it relates to our current chief. For what basically the discussion of public safety was, our chief retired on February 28th. February 20th, that is correct. And he has remained on a volunteer basis. The concern of the committee was, number one, can we as a council keep a department head on a volunteer basis with FRS and not be liable at it for anything? And then the length of that time.
Right.
Because I've heard 6 months, I've heard 12 months, I've heard 13 months. So we moved it out of committee to come here to be, hopefully we have something, and we wanted a legal opinion because none of us are experts.
I heard you loud and clear on the last meeting. I followed the conversation with an email to the state. I also followed with the conversation to Attorney Geller and with the conversation with the chief, understanding that this is a very serious issue that the council is very concerned about. The chief has said, I will opt for retiring from doing anything at this point until this decision is made and we can find exactly, with no doubt, exactly what's going to happen. I don't see the sergeant, but I just wanted to let her know that for these next few days, I'm going to ask her to be acting chief so that she
She's right there.
can so that she can continue to maintain the leadership of the police department. But we felt that it was important to hear your tone and to understand the seriousness of this situation. So the chief has agreed to until this issue is resolved. He's coming back on Thursday to, if we don't get an answer, or at least a positive answer, an answer that allows him to remain in his present status, he will come back on Thursday to retrieve his things. He will be helping me with the negotiation with the PBA. So this part, I asked him to continue to be part of that process. But he understands that this is a very, very important topic to the council. And so I've asked him to, until this is clear, to take a step back and allow us to understand exactly what the ramifications of his role is and how he should conduct himself, moving forward.
Was there a timeline? Did the state give us a timeline as far as how long that takes for them to get it?
Tallahassee. One of the reasons why we are having such a difficult time with this is because it doesn't sound like the FRS is very clear, and they are remiss to actually even provide email address to be able to have this kind of written follow-up. It took several calls on my part to say, listen, I need to be able to submit this to you in writing and send me back exactly what it is that he can or cannot do, what are the limitations. She wanted to do it over the phone, and I don't want to have to interpret your words.
Of course,
it needs to be in writing. There should be some regulation written somewhere that explicitly says this is what someone in that situation can or cannot do.
Okay.
I spoke to Geller. I asked him for the same thing, and but in the interim, and to alleviate this body from concerns, the chief is going to just support me and this office in the negotiations that will be happening with the PBA pretty soon.
So that takes, so you're going to get back to us when they get back to you?
Yes.
Hopefully, okay. Yes, I'm sorry, did anybody have a question? Apologies, anybody have a question?
So was the sergeant told, or were you going to tell her now?
Well, I was going to tell her now.
Okay, so sergeant should probably come
So,
up.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Does she need to be sworn in as the chief?
No, every
don't know.
every time the chief goes on vacation, she's immediately the acting chief
I
anyway.
understand
Oh,
that, but
sorry.
this is a different situation. Vacation and coming in procedurally is something totally different.
Absolutely. What I'd like to do is just to make sure that we have the feedback from the FRS that this is exactly what he cannot do, and then at that point we can this body can take action.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying if she is taking charge as acting chief under a different umbrella of circumstances, does she need to be sworn in as the chief?
I don't
And
know.
if so, there's other things that need to be taken care of in administration and finance.
Right. I don't know what the ordinance would speak to that.
I just asked Joe, she'll hear back soon.
Okay.
Okay. We'll be here for a little bit longer.
I hope not.
Any other questions? Any other questions?
No question.
Okay, so that H4 is H6. Okay, so H6, that's on hold? Clearly,
Yeah.
at the moment. Okay, right, manager?
I'm sorry?
So H6 would be on hold, which
I don't
is...
know because I have it on H4.
No, H4, I know, I just, okay, H4, that would be on hold.
Yes.
Okay, till H5 happens. All right, so H7, moratorium on marijuana dispenser. No, I'm putting the numbers in as I go along because
Okay.
I think I put,
I see.
sorry. That was me.
So
Juan
as-
from Proservia.
Thank you. So as presented to the committee in the last meeting, I believe that we requested that the attorney look into a moratorium or an
Thank you, Commissioner Cejas, for coming. Oh, you wanted,
coming
okay,
back.
sorry. Skip it.
So
Not doing it.
as presented to the committee, we recommended that legal take a look at how to handle requests for marijuana dispensaries in the village of El Portal. There's currently no language in the code that that really directs us as to how to move forward.
So we know this, right? Because we discussed this. So Joe Geller was supposed to get us something. Do we have that?
So I spoke to Joe. He said he was very involved. He was very involved in the legislation that was related to all this. Says he has a ton of information to provide, and that he will provide the options to the council for the council to make an ultimate decision. But his goal is to provide the options to the council. In writing, or
Well, I guess my question to you, because you're the attorney, is, Juan, correct me if I'm wrong, there is a current request?
there's a few.
There's a few. In
There's
El Portal.
No requests, but there have been
Inquiries.
inquiries.
Yeah,
Inquiries, sorry, inquiries. So,
I can get a written proposal or the written options from Joe.
that's what we needed today. That's what we had discussed at committee, and that's what we were hoping to achieve to get today. So, do you know when we can have that by? And Juan, are we in any way, shape, or form?
I can't speak to the legality of the fact that we have no language in the code. Fortunately, right now, they're just inquiries, so we are informing those people that are inquiring that we are looking into it.
Okay.
I
will email Joe as well. I emailed him on this. I will touch base with him, and then the council, you also, just don't put us on copy. You also email Joe and let him know that this was discussed in planning and zoning. It was, we were expecting something at committee, and you could put the clerk in copy and the manager in copy, but this needs to be.
From our standpoint, we are a little uncomfortable not knowing how to proceed.
Yes, absolutely. And I mentioned that in an email, but I asked each and every single one of you to please do the same thing. And Jason, please let him know that.
I've already told him.
And just to correct this, it was either a moratorium or
Yes.
an ordinance regulating how, and we presented an option to the committee the last time that so Joe should have those minutes, or at least that presentation.
Let's email Joe tomorrow, okay?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for Juan before we go to the 3 quotes on Village Hall IT upgrade? All right, thank you, Juan. Okay, so the manager was going to give us, I don't know what committee that came out of, I think Public Works, I don't remember, Village Hall IT upgrade?
Yes.
I think this is it?
It's under the Public Works.
Yes, you have a presentation that is going to be walked through from Ryan, I'm sorry. Lowell, who is our representative with Complete Care IT.
Yes.
The conversations that we had during the, Complete Care IT is our IT provider. So we do not need 3
quotes.
But I did tell you that I would be looking at having fresh eyes look at this, people with on expertise and on this subject matter. Ryan just provided us with the numbers, the cost, etc. They look very reasonable to me, but I do not know this subject. I will make sure that we have somebody, who can look at this and tell us exactly whether this makes the best sense, or the most sense. Perhaps even negotiate a little bit for lower cost with Complete Care. But I asked Ryan to be here so that he could walk you through what they propose to do. It's very exciting. We were both, the clerk and I were in this meeting where Patrick and Ryan provided us an understanding of what they are proposing, and we will even have the opportunity to have live stream all of our meetings moving forward. So without any further ado,
Hello,
Madam
welcome.
Mayor.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Madam Mayor, council members, thank you for seeing me. As Mr. Roseman mentioned, my name is Ryan Lowell. I'm the Vice President of Complete Care IT. So my function in the company is to act as essentially the virtual IT manager for the village. I'm there to provide you recommendations and give you a little bit of guidance on the implications of the technology and so on. So I wanted to address some of our reasoning for the recommendations that we made, some of the deficiencies that the network has right now, and some of the implications of the plan that we've presented. Happy to answer as many questions as you like. If I start running off into the technical woods, please grab me by the leg, but I'll feel free to translate for anything that goes from technology to English. So essentially, the server infrastructure that we have at El Portel right now is a single server that provides all of the roles that are necessary on the network for the El Portel offices. Things like file sharing, printing, user access control, security, and so on. There's a single device server that's located physically here in the village office. That server itself is about 5.5 years old from its installation date now. Typical lifetime for a server is 3 to 5 years, so it's coming up on its end of life. The operating system that the server runs is Server 2008, which is no longer in mainstream support by Microsoft. It is in the extended support, which is where we start to lose some of the support from Microsoft when issues arise. And in addition, the hardware warranty for the server expired several years ago. So effectively, we have a single point of failure, aging server, and it's not going to serve the village for too much longer. What we have recommended is to migrate from the local server to Microsoft Azure, which is Microsoft's cloud platform. Rather than physically replacing the device with a new server and laying out the capital expenditure for a piece of equipment that will again only last another 3 to 5 years, the trend in the industry for similar situations to El Portel is to instead move the roles that the server provides here into a cloud server, effectively a rented server from Microsoft that runs physically in one of their data centers and provides the same services, the same type of roles, but has much fewer of the limitations that the local server has. It allows us to have a number of benefits, chiefly is security. The operating system that is running on the server right now, as I said, came out in 2008. A lot of the threats that we're seeing in the industry security-wise didn't exist when that server was written. Running in Microsoft's Azure Cloud is going to allow us to take advantage of the latest security on the operating system, as well as because the server runs within Microsoft's data centers, we get to take advantage of all the security that they have surrounding that server. They spend about $6 billion a year on security. It's a little above our security budget for the local server. In addition to the security, a key aspect of the server is backup. We always have to have a backup plan in place for the server to protect the data in case of a failure on the server, in case of a virus, theft, fire, any kind of disaster. We always have to have a redundant copy and a redundant ability to operate if the server is unavailable. The backup system that we have now for the server, while it's continuing to function, the company that provided that software went defunct about 2 years ago. So we have a functional backup system, but we don't have any recourse if that software were to stop working. We'd effectively have to start over from scratch. Moving to Microsoft's Azure Cloud is going to allow us to have significantly better recovery options and backup options than we have currently. And in fact, will be much more robust than having a physical server located here at the office. The new version of the server also offers us a lot better options in terms of mobility. Right now, the applications that the village runs, the BSNA software and a few other applications, only physically run here at the office. Moving them into Microsoft Azure Cloud allows us to take them on the road. One of the specific applications that we discussed with David was for the code enforcement officers. They're right now going out and making note of code violations and notes in the field, and then bringing them physically back to the office to enter in here. Were we to do this upgrade, we can actually allow them to take that software with them and log those violations while they're out there in the car. They don't have to take the time to come back to the office. And the last advantage, major advantage to moving over to a regime like this is that going away from a physical piece of hardware in the office and shifting to a cloud mode of operating allows us to make our costs follow the needs of the organization. Microsoft Azure and some of the other cloud providers are what are called consumption-based billing. We only pay for what we are actually using. If we were to replace the server with a current piece of hardware, we'd have to go out and spec a server that is capable of the greatest workload that we can envision in the next 3 to 5 years for the life of the server. Moving to the cloud allows us to only provision a server that meets the exact needs that we have, and we can turn the dial up or down to address greater or lesser workloads as the village evolves. So it allows us only to pay for what we need, nothing more, nothing less. And that's been a great cost savings to our other customers that have gone into similar regimes as this. Savings on backup, savings on storage costs, on processing power, and so on. It's just a much more agile method of delivering the IT services that you need. So that's the long and short of it for the server. In the proposal that I've provided.
Which one? There's 3.
The first one, the cloud modernization project, including the BSNA software. So as I mentioned, there's no hardware to purchase for this project. There's no server to buy. There's no equipment involved in this. The only expense involved is the time and effort to migrate what's on the server now into this cloud server that Microsoft is running for us. There are 2 pieces of software on the server, in addition to the kind of common applications, printing and files and so on. There are 2 pieces of software that the village currently uses. One is BSNA, which is the primary application that the village uses for operations. And then there is AccuFund, which is the former piece of software that was used for financial reporting and so on. The first proposal that I provided to you is the primary project to move the data from the local server into the cloud and take the applications that you use and bring it with. It does not include the AccuFund software, which I'll get to that on the second proposal. But essentially, the first proposal is everything that we need in order to migrate the data and the roles of the current server into the cloud, test and make sure that everything is functional there, turn off the local server, and archive it away. From then on, there's no further need to migrate again because we're not moving from a physical piece of hardware to a physical piece of hardware. We can just continue to operate in the cloud indefinitely. The monthly cost for the server itself, including our support for the server as well as the rental cost from Microsoft for the use of the server, is $485. I want to make sure that everyone understands that the current support costs and backup costs combined for the server is $400. And that cost does go away when we enact this plan. So the net difference in monthly expenditure, even for getting all the advantages we would for going to the cloud, is a difference of only $85. It's fairly compelling.
Is that per month or?
That is per month, correct. So as I mentioned, there's the BSNA software, which is the primary software that we would use, and that is included, moving that to the cloud in the first proposal. The second proposal...
But before you go to second, I have a quick question. So the initial cost to get us to where we need to be based on your recommendation for BSNA is $5,822, and then the recurring cost is $45.
No, the one-time cost is $47.50.
Right.
What is the
the last page, the 5822, that is the annual maintenance cost once the project is completed.
Got it. Okay.
So that the first proposal provides for us to set up and migrate to the server in the cloud and move the primary software that you use, which is the BSNA software. The AccuFund software is no longer in active use on the El Portel network. However, after speaking with Erwin, it does contain all of the prior financial information for previous years when it was in use. That information has not been moved into the BSNA software. So we have essentially three options for maintaining that access to that data. We can continue to run and support the current server that we have, which isn't optimal because we're going to continue paying to support that server. We can migrate that data along with the BSNA software to the cloud. That's what the second proposal is for. That's for our additional time for what's involved in specifically the AccuFund software. And unfortunately, AccuFund, the version that we have, is not compatible with moving to the cloud. So in order to get the latest version that would be cloud compatible and to get AccuFund's assistance in moving that data into the cloud, it would be necessary to renew the license and the support with them, which is the final page in that proposal. That's the $12,375. After speaking with Erwin, I think the most attractive option is option 3. Erwin says that he would be able to do a general ledger dump from the old AccuFund software into a paper format that you would be able to go and refer back to, if necessary, to go back to previous financial data. That allows us to get rid of the local server and not incur that cost of migrating the AccuFund software to the cloud and incurring that large license cost. So our recommendation would be to move the server, move the current BSNA software, and not migrate the AccuFund software. But I did want to provide the proposal in the event that we didn't want to go to paper records.
Do we know how many years of history is in our AccuFund? And when did we start the BSNA?
BSNA is relatively new.
Within the last year, yeah.
3 years, I think it was.
And as to how many years are in AccuFund, that would be a question for Erwin. We don't go inside the program. Forever.
And how much, do we pay you 2 separate fees right now, one for each one, or we pay you the 400 encompasses both right now?
The 400 encompasses the support for the server and the backup for the server. In this case, the backup is contained in the monthly Microsoft cost. So our cost actually reduces for the server. It's a little easier to manage a server that runs in the cloud versus a physical server. We don't have to roll a truck when something goes wrong. So the monthly cost would be the monthly cost for the support of the server would be $150, and then
for the AccuFund server?
No,
for the BSA server?
For the BSNA server.
Oh, okay.
The monthly cost for us to support it would be $150, and then the Microsoft cost would be the $335.
I mean, I don't know if the council has any questions. I'm more inclined to ask the clerk and the manager. Have you guys met with him? Have you guys reviewed this? What is your opinion on this?
We discussed it. This is a product of a couple of months of discussion in terms of what we wanted to have, and Ryan and Patrick have been very available to our discussion and what we needed. We just got the numbers, so last night. So I haven't had time to look, but they seem to be fairly modest. So the cost that is implied here is certainly within. Let me put it this way: I don't want to give Ryan the wrong idea, but we thought that it may be a more expensive proposition. So I'm happy to see that they heeded our words in terms of keep it very as inexpensive as affordable. Thank you, as affordable as possible. So I like the fact that we would not have to worry about a flood or a hurricane putting us out of service, so we can operate this out of anywhere. The fact that our code enforcement and the police officers can get this information right from their cruisers is a terrific benefit. So
do you have a question? Sorry, Councilperson Mathis.
I'd like to send this to committee for Administration and Finance to review, because I got this today too, and these numbers are driving me crazy. Okay. I'd like to take the time to
Yeah,
really look at all the proposals and
Right, and that's why I asked Ryan to come, because we are not, we're not pulling the trigger on this until next year. This is just, we wanted to have the opportunity to do this before budget meeting, have the opportunity to
At least we're getting the
discuss
ball, we're getting the wheels moving.
it. Exactly.
Councilperson Dre had a question. And Councilperson Roman.
Sure. As far as migration, right, what would that represent for the operations? Is this something that's going to happen that you foresee if we were to select the migration, to the to the cloud? What's the impact to the operations? Would they have, the tools they need? Or will this be done during the weekend? What's kind of like the plan if we do?
Always our goal is to have the minimal disruption to the operation as possible. This is part and parcel of what we do. The setup of the server and the migration of the data takes place while we continue to operate on the local server with no impact to the operation. We set up the server in the cloud, we configure it, we set up the security and the user and the access and so on, and then we start the migration in the background. Once the data migration is complete and we've got a good one-to-one match from the local server to the cloud server, then we schedule a cutover day, and we'll have plenty of notice in advance and say during, midnight to 3 a.m. on this particular day, the server won't be available while we make that cut. Okay. But generally to the end users, it's fairly transparent.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to move this to committee.
Hold on one second, I have a question.
There's a motion to move it to committee. Is there a second?
Second, yeah.
Second by Councilperson Dre. Councilperson Rome, I think what Councilperson Mathis wants to do is take it to committee so we can address all of our questions there at a committee, and then we take it, and actually, if it's under what the threshold that I see here, it's really it's something that the manager is within the discretion, but he wants to discuss it at admin and finance so that we can.
It's just a brief, the village of recabling. Did you discuss this? Did I miss that?
No, that was the final thing to discuss.
Yeah, that's, okay. So, and this is in addition to the 4750?
Hold on, there's a motion and a second on the floor. It needs to be voted on.
I know, I had a question for him.
Roll call. Councilperson Dreher.
Yes.
Councilperson Roman.
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Mayor Cubillos.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Move to the committee.
Yes.
Okay, and we ask all our questions there. But thank you. Thank you.
You can answer that one.
Thank you, and I think it's much needed here, so we can't wait. We can't wait to see what's going to happen, and we can ask it at the September committee, and we can plan, we can budget for it.
Thank you
For
very
your
much.
time, it's great meeting you. How long have you been with us?
For most of my career, actually. We're just closing in on the end of our 8th year being the IT provider for El Portel, so we're very grateful that you guys continue to.
Any other
choose us.
municipality that you work with?
I think we made a good run at Miami Shores once, but I think they stuck with their current vendor. But we do work with a couple other quasi-governmental organizations, South Florida Regional Planning Council, a couple others.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
The next one should be a quick one. As we mentioned at the Public Affairs, our celebration coming up for our 80th anniversary is going to be our big deal next fiscal year. So I'd like to ask the council so we can start planning in Public Affairs, but hopefully at a date that we can all be there. The dates that the committee is proposing is the week that we're incorporated. We're incorporated 6th or 7th. Wikipedia says 6th, but Councilperson Mathis says 7th. At the Public Affairs meeting, so the dates that were recommended is the 7th or the 9th to have what we would call our 80th anniversary gala, dinner, party, barbecue, whatever it is. December 7th or 9th. Does that work for either, for you all so that we can hopefully make a motion on a date, vote on it, and we can move forward with it?
December 7th is a Thursday and December 9th is a Saturday.
Yes, that is correct. December 7th is a Thursday and December 9th is a Saturday. December 7th is because I believe that's the actual date we were incorporated. It might be a little hard to do something that day, but we wanted to throw it up. Either day works for you, Councilperson Dre, Councilperson Roman.
Either day.
Either day, Vice Mayor Nickerson.
I mean, Saturday's always better, I guess.
Saturday.
Either day.
Okay. Chair. Saturday. Okay, so somebody make a motion.
I'll motion for Saturday, the 9th.
So there's a motion to have our big celebration on this Saturday, December 9th. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilperson Dre. Any discussion before we do a roll call?
As long as Commissioner can join us on Saturday. That's all that matters.
Madam Clerk, can I have a roll call on that so we can move forward?
Councilperson Dreher.
Yes.
Councilperson Roman.
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Mayor Cubillos.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Okay, the last one is approval of miscellaneous public works project.
Yeah, we had this, I'm passing the estimates that I received. It's a couple of, take one and okay, thank you. We had a couple of public works projects, some drainage, the address of the places out there.
Yeah. Wait, is the same thing?
No, it's two different projects, and then there are a number of little ones that we would include in that, including that pothole in front of Horace Mann. The last estimate on both stacks are the lowest, and this one,
There's two estimates, correct?
two different projects.
Two different projects.
Major projects, well, they're not major projects, but they're a little bigger project. But there will be a few other smaller ones like that pothole in front of Horace Mann that will be taking care of it.
So, in front of Residence Volchek's house, which is Northwest 88,
Right.
that is gonna cost $5,800?
Yeah.
That,
Well, because it's well, let me just explain.
this one.
It's the water stagnated from his
Yeah,
house.
yeah.
But the drainage problem extends to across the street, further down the street, towards the school. So one of the benefits of this is that area does not require additional drainage projects, and that this project will make sure that will make that whole street, as good as the other ones.
Where's the funding coming from? Madam.
Go ahead.
This is in the committee. Where's the funding coming from?
From
Is it encompassed in?
We have funding in our for remember on the last committee meeting, I told Erwin that we had about $20,000 worth of projects forthcoming. So that's.
And my next question would be: Are these the?
I know.
A motion to move it to committee.
Second.
Okay, wait.
There's a motion to move it to committee. Now, keep in mind, these residents have been asking for a long time, and committee meets in September, but I agree. There's a motion on the table made by Councilperson Mathis. There's a second for Councilperson Dre to move it to committee. Any questions before we ask for a vote on the project? Any questions on what we're doing? We're going to move it to committee. We'll discuss it in committee. For both projects?
Both,
yes. Yeah.
If you-
sets of projects.
If you have specific, questions, I'd like to.
I will ask.
Okay.
211 Northeast Union High Street.
That's the doctor's office.
Roll call, Madam Clerk. Roll call.
Madam Clerk, may I have roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilperson Dreher.
Yes.
Councilperson Roman.
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Mayor Cubillos.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Resolutions. Yay. Okay, so we have, thank you for your patience. I see all the residents here. We have a resolution. Jason, please read the resolution 2017 PZ001B for fence. Please read it to the record.
Grab the mic here. Good evening. This is resolution number 2017 PZ-001B, 8995 Northeast First Ave fence. A resolution of the mayor and village council of the village of El Portal, Florida, authorizing a variance for residential property located at 8995 Northeast 4th Avenue, El Portal, Florida, by the village council sitting as the Board of Adjustment.
Thank you, Jason.
For the record, Councilperson Mathis has been excused. He is not voting in this matter as he did in prior.
Okay. Juan, you going to give us a staff recommendation on this?
Certainly.
And so that we can bring in the residents who are here and they have questions on it?
Is the council voting on both items or just A and then B?
No, for this resolution, it was only one passed committee,
Okay, got it.
which was the fence.
Okay. They were both fences, but,
No, the fence in the front did not get passed on the committee. The fence on the side, correct?
okay. got
In the
it.
back, sorry, the back.
So staff recommends approval pursuant of section 17-58. We don't see any effect on the public interest based on this proposal.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
We don't see any adverse effect on the public interest.
Okay, so
Based
your
on this.
staff recommendation is to go with it?
Our staff recommendation is for approval.
Approval, yeah. I think we should bring up the residents so they can, if we have any questions I think you guys are here, right? Yeah. So that the residents who are here can hear a little bit about what we're about to vote on. What? I know, but I have to do it.
Good evening, Todd Newman, 8995 Northeast 4th Avenue.
Thank you for being here. We've all heard it, but out of respect to those residents who are here that don't, if you can just give us a little brief, and then I'll ask for if there's a motion to pass it.
Okay. We have requested a variance to replace the fencing along the back portion of our property, which borders our neighbor, Mrs. Brooks, on Northeast 90th Street. The variance request has been for an 8-foot-high fence because of the fact that our pool decking in the back is elevated a foot. So we've requested that the 8-foot fence compensate for the portion of the pool deck that is elevated. It's currently 7 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Does the council have any questions before I close and I ask for public comments? Any questions no questions? Okay. Hearing none, I'm going to close the council meeting and open it up to the public if they have any questions on this resolution that the council is going to vote on. Okay, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and back up to the council. Is there a motion to move forward with this resolution 2017PZ001B?
Motion.
Motion's been made by Councilperson Roman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilperson Dre. Any discussion before I ask for roll call?
Madam Mayor.
All right, hearing none. Madam Clerk?
Roll call. Councilperson Dreher.
Yes.
Councilperson Roman.
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis has recused himself. Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Mayor Cubillos.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Good job. Thank you for all your input and everything, for giving us everything we needed. Congratulations. We're going to go to the second resolution. Jason, if you can please read Resolution 2017 PZ002 for a driveway onto the record.
Yes, this is resolution number 2017-PZ002, 52 Northeast 90th Street for a driveway. A resolution of the mayor and village council of the village of El Portal, Florida, authorizing a variance for residential property located at 52 Northeast 90th Avenue, El Portal, Florida, by the village council sitting as the Board of Adjustment.
Great, thank you so much. At this time, we have a resolution for a driveway. There you are again, Juan. And I think, Madam Clerk, Councilperson Mathis is also excused from...
For both of the cases, yes.
He was excused from committee, and he is here too.
Correct.
Staff recommends denial for this variance. We have looked at it carefully, and we feel that it will not be in harmony with the general interest of the public, and against the and against the interest of the comp plan.
Okay, and just for clarity, Juan, why do you, like, what is the reasoning behind that?
There's several reasons behind it. Number one, we feel it doesn't go with the code. It doesn't follow the code. And we have not heard from the applicant reason enough to make it a variance. And in order to set precedent for this kind of variance, we should be seeing an extraneous condition. If there's no extraneous condition, then our recommendation would be that we change the code rather than approve a variance that will result in more requests for the same type of exception.
Yeah, I understand perfectly. For the residents, when you say that it doesn't follow the code, in what way does it not follow the code?
It requests an additional width to the 12-foot allowed under the code, which will result in additional area to be paved on the swale.
Yeah. So for the residents, for clarification, the reason why he's saying that they don't recommend it is because of the width, it will bleed onto the swell also.
That's number one.
That's number one.
So the comp plan observes the naturalistic look of El Portal. The smaller, within reason, the smaller the driveways, the more grass area you can plant. Cars are not allowed to be parked on the swale per both the code and the comp plan. And so wide driveways will encourage that parking to happen.
Go ahead, Madam Mayor.
No, I don't remember if we asked as a committee. I really don't remember. I'm going to ask it again. Was there a discussion with the applicant about considering maybe the width is not something within our code, but if the variance were to be granted, would they consider? I mean, I don't remember after looking at the application. The driveway, I think it's going to be cemented, right? I mean, would they consider something a little more eco-friendly? Was that discussed when you met with them, or it wasn't discussed? It was never discussed? I don't know.
No, we did not discuss anything that wasn't part of the application. Still, may I ask, what do you mean by eco-friendly?
I don't know, versus, just tar or cement,
So,
Like pebbles, you mean?
Like something, maybe, I don't know. I'm not the green expert, but I've seen them, and I just don't know what they're called, right? But it might look a little more palatable and...
that would still have us approve a driveway that is much wider than that one permitted by zoning, by the zoning code.
I was just trying. Okay. Does the council have any questions? I'd like to bring up the applicant. Does the council have any questions? No questions. Okay. Do you guys want to come up? You guys are here. No, don't look like that. I know. How are you? Nice to see you.
Hello, my name is James Curry, 52 Northeast 90th El Portal. I have a question. It went from 16 feet to 12 feet now, the swale?
Is it 16 on the driveway?
Oh, the driveway itself is only... Okay. The application, the driveway was already been administratively approved for the 20-foot, so that's already been approved. So the question we're asking for is for the swale, the variance for the swale. This is a whole new conversation that we're talking about currently now.
What?
No, I think
What happened?
No.
I think there's been an error, but I will pass out this drawing maybe to clarify.
No, I think that what's happening is when you guys were approved at the committee meeting.
Right.
I think he thought that was the final approval.
No.
No.
Did a conversation happen afterwards with our administration, maybe?
No, before Mr. Rosen gave me administrative variance for the driveway.
Right.
Because I asked for a setback of 16 inches off the property line.
No, what what we discussed, this project has been in process for almost a year, right?
Yes.
I believe that what we discussed originally was how much you could park inside of your property.
Correct.
And we talked about that as long as you took less than 33% of the available area, you could park in your property. And that was the extent of what concessions as per code.
Right.
So there was no variance approved administratively because, I've always been against administrative approval because you want to be consistent on this thing. So what I said to you was what the code allowed, and and Juan and I can go back in our notes. I didn't think that we were going to go into an area that was not consideration for this variance.
If I may clarify for the record, I believe that there is a misunderstanding in terms of nomenclature. You're allowed to park within your property behind your sidewalk. That we're not calling a driveway. That is your parking area. The driveway is what happens within the swale, which needs to be of a certain width. Okay. Now, behind your sidewalk, you can park up to 33% of your frontage, of your front lawn, and you can pave up to 33% of it. The approach to that parking area is what we call the driveway, and it needs to be 12 foot wide. Additional width to that 12 foot. Again, it's aesthetically contradictory to what is approved and is recommended, and it creates, based on our professional practice, it creates a safety hazard for pedestrians because cars typically tend to drive or turn faster as they, the wider the available asphalt.
The approach, yeah.
Does that answer that confusion?
Yes, that clarifies a lot. At the committee, we presented evidence that within 300 feet, 5 houses already have a 20-foot entrance, and one in particular had a 30. And then the discussion was such that maybe they had been done without a permit, that they had received an administrative variance, and then we were going to go gather data because we're not setting a precedent. Within 300 feet, there's already 5 other houses that have what we're requesting and greater. So the selective enforcement of this particular variance seems odd. Did we do the data? Did we gather the data on these other 5 properties? Were they permitted? I thought that's what
some
we're going to do.
Some were permitted, some were not.
Okay, well then I humbly suggest that if some were allowed, then we should. Why not us?
And if I have this large driveway, and I thought the swale was 16, not 12, how am I supposed to drive the cars over? I would put a dirt patch on either side of my 12-foot driveway if I have a 20-foot inside property driveway. If the swale is only 12 feet and I have 20 feet of driveway, I'm going to make a dirt pit in front of my house. I'm trying to beautify the neighborhood, not take away. And if you know my property, it is fully greened. You can't even see my house other than through my driveway. I have plenty of greenery. So I believe I do follow the village look, character.
Can we share a drawing that we have?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, please. You can, to us, to the audience, give us what you got.
You want to give it to them?
We're going down to the countdown.
Sure.
Where's my friend Sue?
One. So ideally, if you look where the cars are, that 20, okay? And if you think of the 12 in the street, so you'd have an entrance at 12, which suddenly opens to 20, which is less than 33% of the property.
Does the council have any questions for either Juan or the applicant? Or the administration?
So this is adding to that side here.
May I ask a technical question?
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at this drawing. So typically, we consider 10 feet per car. This drawing is showing 20 feet for 3 cars. It's physically impossible to fit 3 cars within 20 feet based on parking standards. Just making that note because perspectives may be misleading. I'm not saying that you're trying to mislead the council. I'm saying that from a professional standpoint, I cannot understand how we can fit 3 cars within 20 feet.
Okay, imagine there being 1 car there. I mean, the point is to show the width of the driveway compared to the entrance.
This 20 looks wider, right?
It's not to suggest a certain number of cars.
So is he looking to go more here? Right. Yeah, it's not, there's no
So may I
big cars.
ask the applicant where they are planning to park the 3rd car? In the application, it says, in consideration of the aforementioned 3-car situation. Are we considering that the 3rd car will be in the swale?
Where would you like it to be?
You need to fit it within your parking area, which is 33% of your front yard.
Okay. Well, on either side, on one side there's a coconut that's about this big, so we'd have to take that out, or on the other side there's a Royal Poinciana, so there's no area to fit more cars.
You'd have to take out the very mature vegetation to get that. And plus,
space.
So just for everybody's understanding of this, this application is to consider the location of a 3rd car parked in the property, as it states on your letter of intent. If you're proposing 20 feet width pavement, is this application about the location of that 3rd car in the swale?
Well, I mean, the letter of intent was written way before we met with the committee, and a lot of conversations, including the one that I brought up with you, of having shown you at least 5 other houses within 300 feet that already have this. And then we were under the impression we were going to come back and have a conversation about the data, about those other comparables. But now it's the conversation shifting to our letter of intent written months prior to the committee meeting. So was there a gathering of those other houses? Is that a consideration for you?
Manager, refresh my memory, because I believe that you did bring us that information.
Yeah, but
and there was,
the issue is relevance. You know, there were some that were permitted. What the process was is not, our records are not particularly detailed. There were some that were permitted. There were some that were not, that was done without permit. But I think that the issue is this something that you want to consider moving forward? I think that's this discussion at this point. You know, I think 3 were permitted. I think they brought 5, right?
We brought 5.
5, and 3 were permitted. 2 were not. They were permitted at different times, and we have those kinds of inconsistencies throughout the village. And it's something that, you know, this committee will have to grapple with moving forward. There may be a time when you will say, well, moving forward, we will do this, we will do that, and then look at variances only in the most extreme situations. It's entirely to, you know, the will of the committee, but this is where we are today.
I mean, you could do that starting tomorrow. Right? So it's like, why is today the day that we're doing that?
This the way
that I'll say it after you. Go ahead.
is this the way that is this how far it would go one? Like I'm just
This was, by the way, done by an artist friend of mine.
You just, not to scale or.
Okay, so no. So yeah, so.
There's a picture that
I'd
shows.
recommend that you look at the plan, which is the most accurate probably, document that we have, which is the proposed expansion of that swale. It's 4.2 in the applicant's package.
Well, okay, I think her question though relates to the way it wings out, and when you were asked, Juan, in the committee, you weren't really sure how far it goes out, and neither are we, so that's why the depiction has a little, I don't know if it's a big swing that goes out, or a little swing, or I don't know.
Is there any other questions for the applicant or for Juan or for the administration? No, you can say, absolutely, please, chime in.
And I just want to say this very quickly to you guys. I understand what you're saying as far as why do you have some that were permitted and then some weren't permitted and they just did on their own or whatever. And you're basically saying, so what's the deal now? Like what's up now and tonight and why tonight would we deny when there's others that we've permitted in the past? And I'm not saying you're going to be approved or denied at this point, but the only thing I want you to kind of just understand is that whatever we do tonight, whichever way we go, it's not personal, and things and with this new council, which I think is the greatest council I've been with since I've been up here all these years,
You've said that before to me. I'm kidding.
We're moving forward, and we didn't have like set rules now, like how we have now when we hire for Serbia. So now, from what's been done in the past to where some things were approved and some things weren't approved, and why was this approved? Why was this? Now we're trying to start, and maybe this is a bad thing. You're getting caught up in like a council that's trying to now start things, and we're trying to set things the right way now, and from here on. So it's different than the way it used to be. We're doing things much differently.
Can I just add to that? These decisions are always hard. JC is a friend of mine. You're sitting there, and we've met on this so many times, and but it's hard because we make decisions based on what the code tells us we're supposed to do, right? But I think to add what Vice Mayor Nickerson was saying is not that we did not follow anything or we were all over the place, but we just passed also a form-based code. And we are trying to set a vision based on what was done several years ago through about over 100 residents that came in, and they had a design of what this town would look like or village would look like. So, and then Juan was hired in December of 2014 and to put this form-based code so that we can stop or mitigate all of these things that have been happening before most of our time up here. So, we try to, we ask, it goes to a committee, it comes to us, we take a look at everything. Even when we're not here, we probably ask questions and we're taking a look, because at the end of the day, we're governed by a code. We don't just make decisions because, oh yeah, we like you or we like you. No, we make it based on what the code says, and then there's some variance that we see if there's a possibility that we can, consider, and that's why you made it out of committee to here, so to give us more time to think and talk and so on and so forth.
Yeah, when I first moved into El Portal, the height of the fences was 4 feet. And the only way you can get a 6-foot fence was through this process. And so then they changed the code to 6 foot. And I was like on 177 Northeast 88th Street with my 4-foot fence, wondering, oh, well, that's really nice. So then there was another council like you that decided to pass tile roofs only on those houses that were designed for tile roofs. But then there were the exceptions and variants. If someone could produce financial hardship, then they would be granted a variance. And then a new council came in and decided no more of that. So I understand this ebb and flow and your feeling of need to, uphold the code. I just feel that along with your requirement to uphold the code, you also need to treat residents fairly.
That makes sense?
Yes. Any other questions for the applicants?
Just had a quick question. I know there were, based on the gentleman's comments on the 5 properties. Sorry?
Oh, no, I'm talking to myself.
Sorry. Just to the village manager, there were 5 locations, right, that were proposed on the analysis, right? So out of those 5, which were the ones that what was the count, what was the result that was
3
granted?
out of 2.
3 out of 2?
Were permitted, 2 were not. The one, I think that, I'm sorry? Well,
No, I was just going to add that no variances were approved on any of them.
yeah, they were.
Just to clarify.
They were
Those
permitted.
These are no
None of those
variances.
homes were
They
given.
were approved or not approved, or sorry, approved or done without
With-
permits, I assume. But the
there were no
approved ones were not through the process of variance.
No, but just to be fair to the gentleman's comment that there was going to be more analysis, we're just, giving that feedback just on the comparables here that you presented in the analysis. All right, but that's all. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant or for Juan? If not, then I'll close it for public comment. Council, any questions? Okay, thank you, guys. Hearing none, I'll close the council meeting, open it up for public comments. If anybody at this time has any questions with this resolution before we move forward.
For comments.
Or comments.
Hi, I'm 157 Northwest 88th Street, El Portal, Florida, Maribel Fruitstone. Have the residents on that street been asked or notified of this? Because I haven't been to the initial hearings on it. And are they here to contest or say anything in a negative way? Because, I mean, from what I see, and driving around El Portal, there are a lot of people that are not in compliance with the form-based code right now, with vehicles in the swales, too many vehicles in their homes at one time, because we also have a code that you can only have a certain amount of cars on your personal property. And so, I don't know, I mean, they're in a rock and a hard place, but, I mean, I don't see that there should be too much of a problem in regards to it. I mean, we have other developed swales. There are other like I know my driveway's on the swale, so and there's not dirt, but and that was a prior council. So I don't see that there's a problem in that I'm in support of the variance, and I live on the west side, so it's beautiful.
Adam Old, 140 Northeast 86th Street. I don't really like the idea of having lots of driveways and wide concrete coming out onto the swale, but I also don't like the idea that there's no possible option to avoid having a muddy pit on either side of their driveway if they're going to be using the 33% the way that they've shown. And I saw the picture they provided and the way it looks now, and I don't think it really fits our village character either. Or maybe it does, and we should change that a little bit. So, I have concerns like Juan does of, fast turning, and I think they addressed that at the committee meeting. I also have concerns about stormwater runoff when you have impervious surfaces like concrete. So it would be difficult for me to approve this variance, and of course you shouldn't approve it because you're not supposed to approve variances for anything other than a weird lot. But I would suggest that if you are going to approve this variance, that you would request a permeability of the driveway material to at least offset that, and there is permeable pavement. There's permeable. You can put holes in your concrete to make it permeable. You can do these little hexagon things with grass, so you can have a grass driveway. There's a lot of different options for that, and I know that's probably not what they wanted to hear, but if you were going to support it, I would suggest that you would ask for something like that.
I didn't say permeable, I said eco-friendly, but that's what I meant. So thank you.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have. I don't care if it's eco-friendly.
I meant permeable, which is for flooding. That would make more sense.
Right.
Yeah, I just used eco-friendly because
You're right. Right. And if like technically, maybe you're not supposed to pass a variance like this. And I think I was one of those councils that said no variances for hardships or whatever. But you might want to look at doing a little legislative amendment that lets them fix their property in the way that we all know would be better, and lets other properties do the same thing in an eco-friendly and El Portal way, because there's a lot of properties with just muddy swales that kind of suck. Anyway.
To answer Maribel's question, residents were notified. 200 letters were sent.
we have some yeses right here. Okay.
They're all located within the same street
Yeah.
where JC lives. Yeah.
Any other residents? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close the public comment and open it up back to the council. I mean, the recommendation that Adam Old made, which sort of, are you open to something like that? Have you talked to Juan about that, of having a permeable more approach? Is that something that?
We have not talked about that.
Is that something that we could,
something that can be open?
Consider that maybe bring it back to us, or without having to advertise it?
It would have to be re-advertised.
Huh? It would have to be advertised again?
Of course, if you're going to rebring it.
Or, I don't know, that's a question for you guys, JC.
And have to be rewarded.
Last resort, I'm forced to do, I guess I'll have to.
Is, what do you, would you?
Beautify the front of my house.
I'm not
Yeah,
opposed.
Madam-
I mean, I'm not opposed to having that permeable, approach to the driveway.
Okay. Vice Mayor Nickerson?
I mean, I think that's a happy medium.
Can we make a motion?
Jason, can we go ahead and if this is something that we would consider, we have to amend the resolution though, just to emphasize that it says a permeable. Yes, Juan, go ahead.
We could just approve with conditions.
Yeah, that's
Approve
what
with
I said,
conditions.
variance with conditions.
Perfect.
We don't need to reinvent.
We don't have to do all of that. Okay.
We don't have to resend everything,
No, I was
and
gonna
I don't
say,
think that the
if they're
applicant
gonna
wants to.
No,
raise
that's why we
another
figured out a way that we can
4
do it, or we can do it all here
If they're not
tonight.
changing any
You can approve
wording,
with conditions.
With conditions.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I will say on the record that this is setting precedent.
So there's-
We will have to consider, the council should consider whether or not the code should be changed, or this should be setting a precedent that then we follow through with other applicants, because, you can't just approve for one and not the other.
Correct. And I think that we're so unique. The village is so unique, and every case is different. So, I mean, that's my stance on the whole.
So I mean, because you probably don't want to leave it extremely open either,
No.
and just permeable condition is way too wide a term. My recommendation would be to allow the village manager. Help me out, but I think that the way to do this would be approved with conditions, with a village manager approving this, or approving whatever resolution comes between the applicant.
I'd rather have the zoning official be the one to the expert approve it, but I think that
we will work with the applicant
At
to.
one time, Mr. Curry and I talked about pavers as a way of instead of concrete, something that would allow for the muddy situation to be addressed, and at the same time, allow for permeability in the swale, and also a commitment that parking should not be done there. It is only
Right.
as a way to get it into the property. because I think that that's the most important element in this situation, that it will not be an extra, area for parking, but that it will just be to access the parking area inside of the property.
And those are my point 2 and 3 concerns. One of them, we're still widening the driveways, almost by 200%. I mean, we're talking about 200%, but by 8 feet, and that's quite a bit. So that's one concern, and then the second concern, obviously, is the safety. The safety. You're
right. At one time, we also
and the parking and the parking.
Exactly. We also talked about a happy medium, which to me is always one of those elements where negotiate both sides, give a little, and then we find something that we can all live with as a way of moving forward. Because we could spend quite a bit of time and effort on this. So if we can reduce from the 20, as we said, I think it was 16, 18, something like this, and then.
And to be perfectly honest, I want to make sure that the council, whatever approval or denial or conditions you set, this should set precedent only on specific zones, because once you start going up on urban areas, the last thing that you want is numerous driveways that really create a safety hazard. I mean, the safety of the pedestrian in a residential neighborhood is a concern, of course. But the number of times that the applicant will go in and out of the driveway minimizes the risk factor. Now, when you start going up in areas that are more that have more residents driving, more visitors, retail, etc., the width of the driveway really becomes a concern. And also, it becomes, what happens is that the grade at which the driveway goes up when you have a curb and gutter, which may or may not happen during the stormwater redesign of the street, and that means that you start having dips every time you have a sidewalk. So these are concerns these are the reasons why the best practices tend to go to 12 feet. And when you get into your parking area, that's when you park diagonally, or you have to wiggle your way around your parking area to fit 2, 3, or 50 cars, whatever it is that you're fitting in your parking area, which has a maximum area, which is 33% of your front yard. But if we start changing the section of the street, if we have curbs and gutters, if we redesign these things, then suddenly, and I'm the one that parks on my driveway in my house, so I know how, if I have the space, I will do it. So whatever way the council decides to go on this, I recommend you think it through, because it has certain implications. And to remind you of the conversation that we have at committee as well, another way to go about this would be to say, if there is precedent within a certain distance of the applicant, it could be permitted, a certain number of precedent instances within a certain distance of the applicant, then an exception can be made.
Okay.
I'm trying, I guess that what I'm trying to do in a very bad way is to try and convince you that if you do approve this, that you need to narrow down the conditions to a point that it's not.
Right, not for everybody.
It does not apply
Right.
to, or we change the code, which is I'm perfectly happy to do.
Well, I think, he does have a number of homes in that area, so.
Any questions, comments, suggestions from the council to one?
No, I just want to say real quickly, it's for me, it's such a difficult position and difficult decision, even more than position, I guess I could say. El Portal is just so unique, but in just some ways, it's just hard because a lot of the properties are smaller, and because they were built so long ago, and there's just not a lot of room that people today need that they didn't need in the 50s and they didn't need back then, and that's the problem. And trust me, like I go back and forth with this, like I respect the code, I want the code, but my son's 9 and my daughter's 6. And like we love this community, and my son loves politics, and he loves El Portal, and he wants to be mayor one day. So he told me, right?
Don't talk to me.
So exactly, I might talk about it. So we're not going anywhere. So and right now my driveway is me and my wife. What's going to happen when he's 17, right? So I don't want to, you know what I'm saying, like vote against something, and then 10 years from now or 8 years from now, I'm voting for it. I'm up here asking for the same thing because it makes me a hypocrite. So I love Upper Town. I love how it is, but it's just outdated, some of the properties, because just the size, man. And it's just, people have families now. And it's just too small sometimes. The size is just too small. So I'm back and forth with this all the time. Thank you, man. I'm sorry.
No. Any other comments from the council to Juan or to the applicant? Okay, hearing none. So a lot of things have been thrown around. I guess the first question is there a motion to accept it as is? I guess that'd be my first question. No. Okay, there's no motion to accept it as is. Okay. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to accept it under the special condition of having a permeable driveway, which they can come to administration present the driveway they want to use, and administration can give them with approval. I mean, I don't know how we want to work that out as far as like what a permeable driveway is. I know you're not an expert on permeable driveways, but I would like to make a motion to accept this under the special condition of them doing it with a permeable driveway. That's my motion.
And because we have external homes.
There's a motion on the table. I need a second. Well, there's a motion on the table to accept the driveway with permeable.
Special condition with permeable
Special
driveway.
conditions, special terms to use permeable material or to make it. That's your motion?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
The second by Councilperson Dre. I have a question, Juan. However, this still doesn't address the other further restrictions or covenants of any of that nature to ensure that this is not setting the standard. So I don't know if that motion is sufficient to ensure that we're not setting the precedent. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Jason, does that make sense?
I say you could make sure that you can word it specifically. When I did check with Joe, is that you don't need to re-notice this to everyone. That you're fine doing it.
Unless it was changed.
And again, it's not for us to tell them the council had to do it, but that might be something to think about, is just having to avoid a future issue with specific language. We want to think about the language that you're going to.
I think we should add language.
My thing is, and there's a motion on the table, so I mean, the discussion's got to be with reference to the current motion. So, any other discussion with the current motion with I don't know if it has sufficient parameters, and I don't think you answered that, did you?
No, he didn't answer.
Well, the parameters that you are entering is that you're approving a 20-foot wide driveway as long as it's permeable. That's my understanding.
With
But are the conditions just a permeable driveway, or are there more conditions? No, you didn't. That's because there's a motion to accepting it with permeable. That's the motion.
So for this motion, I didn't put other conditions because we just didn't have a discussion. Now, this is about this. It's about this. It's about this. I figured that with this particular motion, which we're talking about, I would make the motion in that way, and because we haven't narrowed down exactly what what all the conditions are going to be, we could do that at another date where we have the time to do that. I figured for this motion with that permeable driveway, we could, through the administration, come to an agreement as far as what that will be this time.
Okay, so there's a motion by Vice Mayor Nickerson, and a second by Councilperson Dre. Any further discussion on this motion before we move to something else, if we do? Madam Clerk, can I have
Roll call. Roll call, Councilperson Dreyer. Yes. Councilperson Roman. Councilperson Roman?
No.
Okay. Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Mayor Cubillos.
No.
It's a tie, no?
No, it's no. It's
It's a
2-2.
That's a 2-2? Oh, yeah. Motion does not pass.
Okay, so is there any other motion on this application? My recommendation is, I'm looking at it as a totality. I think that before we move forward with this, there's certain things that we have to do in place, and I don't think that we're ready to make that. And I think we need answers from Joe Geller, our attorney who's not here, but I think the council may want to do this, but there's certain parameters that are in place that needs to be discussed, and I just think that at this time, unless there's another motion with further specifics as far as how Juan from Pluserbia mentioned it.
Juan, can you go over again what you had recommended? Because I do believe that I'm willing to approve this and put in the wording in regards to, because of the number of homes, the reasoning behind it. If there's.
Okay, I see what you're going. So what you're asking is that I reword what I was saying with regards to the proximity of other houses that have the same. So one of the ways to go about this would be to approve it with the condition, or to approve it with a condition, or let me see. I'm not a lawyer, but I'll try. To approve it based on the fact that there is X number of precedent within a certain distance of the applicant's residence, to be edited by the village attorney. So in other words, if a new applicant comes requesting the same variance, it should be approved based on a study of the street alongside them, whether you want it on the same side or both sides of the street, with a minimum of those. That, in my opinion, should be either grandfathered or permitted, because the ones that, one of the things that this variance raises is the fact that there's some properties that have illegal, that have been built, driveways that have been built illegally. And the other question that this raises is what to do about them, because just because they are there doesn't mean that they're legal. So no knowledge of the law, right? Isn't that what they teach you in first year law school? My dad was a lawyer. No knowledge of the law doesn't make you innocent. So just the fact that you have these driveways next door doesn't mean that they should. So if there are 3 that have been permitted, which not by variance, so let's just say that they are grandfathered in, and they are within, how long is your block, do you know?
Small block.
So within, let's say, 300 feet, and we would have to look at it to come up with a wording, but if you have three examples within 300 feet of the applicant, then a variance may be granted. That was more or less the language. And then you need to consider what to do with the other 2 that are legal.
Yep. Is that something that you can help us word?
Yeah, I'm going to suggest that because if you want to make it special language, that we get Joe to sign off on that language.
Okay.
So that's what I would recommend.
But my thing is the applicant going to have to,
Have to be noticed? Is that your concern?
Yeah.
Let me ask.
And then the other question that the council has raised is whether or not it needs to be permeable. One of your residents was talking about the fact that there is drainage issues already in the village. And so that large mass of concrete at, every single house adds up to the lack of permeability.
Anything, Jason?
I'm going to check with Joe to see about that, with the renoticing issue. And then I'll let you all know.
Okay. For sake of time, while we're contacting the attorney, can we continue the agenda? And then if anything, the attorney gets back, we'll bring it back up. Okay? Okay. Councilperson Mathis, you wanted to speak before we went into reports.
And tonight was the showcase of what I'm going to talk about in a minute, but I wanted to let the council know that we've approved the new seal.
Love it. Oh
It was a lot of work.
I want to thank the clerk for all the hard work.
That was so
that
much
she put
work,
into
believe it or not.
Because we got some
To get it to the right point.
patches back that were not very good looking.
That's where it started, and that's how it ended.
And
Oh my God, I remember this one.
tonight was a quick study on parliamentary rules of procedure that
I like
a lot
this
of us
blue
did
better.
not follow.
But you can't
And
order
I
yet.
think that we need to be mindful of how we're conducting ourselves on the dais. And
Okay,
Can I get one?
I think you will.
No, what is it?
I'll make a copy. Does
Okay.
anybody missing a copy?
I got the agenda and I started looking at the agenda and I was looking at things that were placed on the agenda, especially when it came to the committee reports. And there's some things that I don't know how they got to where they are. And I think it's disrespectful to the committee and the committee chair to arbitrarily just put something on their agenda. I think it should go to the committee, go through the committee, and then come back to the council. Case in point, in Public Works, there's a couple of entries with regards to a vehicle, which, if I'm not mistaken, it's mentioned also in the mayor's report or public safety report. That should go into public safety if it's coming from that committee. Also, planning and zoning should not be in public works. It should be planning and zoning. Police staff meeting should not be in public works. The labor management committee, I don't even know what that is.
That's out of the PBA contract.
Okay, that can stay in public safety.
Where's my copy?
And I wanted to talk to David about the chief and the police evaluations. I see that it is in public safety, but I think it should be a part of administration and finance. I don't know. But I think that all of us need to really take a hold of what we've adopted, and that's the procedures of parliamentary procedure, Robert's Rules of Parliamentary Procedure. And I think that we need to really get a hold on it. And it goes for me too, but tonight was just that. I don't think any of us like long meetings, and the long meetings happen because we're discussing stuff at the council meeting that should be discussed in the committee meetings. The committee meetings are the meetings that should be long. These council meetings should not be going on at 10 o'clock. And that's...
I want to, thank you. I want to add something, and the meetings have been really long the last couple of months, but I specifically remember in February, and although Councilperson Mathis wasn't there, but if there's one thing, Councilperson Mathis is a parliamentary guy, and he has been for the long time I've been here, so I'm a little surprised. I'm not overly surprised. But in that committee, in that strategy session, the gentleman that gave us a parliamentary procedure training said that everything has to happen in committee. He did say that. And then by the time it gets out of committee, it's because all the discussion is happening with the members, and then you bring it to full council so those members that are not on it can have the opportunity to discuss it. I think that we've kind of deviated, and I agree. How we used to do it and what should happen is if you're not in the committee, then you send it through to the clerk if you have a recommendation, an idea that you want public works, or you want public safety, or you want public affairs to consider. You tell the clerk, hey, can you please send the chair of admin and finance, this, what are your, so they can discuss it at their committee, and I think we've gotten away from that. So I agree. With regards to the evaluations of the police, now that you mentioned it, I think they used to be in the admin and finance. I don't remember though. I think when you were chair of admin and finance, I think God, it was years ago now. I think you did ask for the evaluations. I don't know. I have to, but there are many committees that are going to overlap, right? But I think the point that we need to achieve here, that I think Mathis, now I see what he was doing throughout the whole committee. He just was whispering. He goes, I just asked to go to the committee. It's because we really need to start filling, so we're not here till 11 o'clock at night. If we really take the committees seriously and really do what we're supposed to, these meetings should be listening to the residents that didn't make the committees and listening to the council that are not in the committees, and then we can move. So I agree. That's all I have to say. And I'm sorry, I'm guilty. I put public works vehicles. It should probably go under public safety because something that I've been working on that I just wanted. And actually, the other point is everything that we talk about in committees should be what we already discussed at committees. It should be nothing new. So I think I'm probably guilty of that too. So everything that has been discussed at committee, the committee reports is the time that we tell everybody, hey, this is what we're doing, and so I think we need to sort of go back and if you have not discussed it at committee, it should not be coming to council. So fine, I'm fine with that. Okay.
Madam Mayor. Yeah, I just want to say that.
Thank you, Councilperson Mathis.
Thank you, Councilperson Mathis. The distinguished one. I agree with him 100%. I agree with the mayor 100%. I would say though that our meetings under this new council, they do run long because we are involved in so many more things though. And I'm looking at the agenda items tonight, right? The financials from Irwin. I'm looking at the complete streets presentation that we have. And so it's 10 o'clock, but everything that's on here that we went through, we would have went through in pretty much the same way. Anyway, there was nothing on here when you look at the agenda tonight. There was nothing on here that we would have discussed more in committee that we wouldn't have talked more about here. Tischler Bites, we had to talk about it here.
But
you know what I mean? So,
okay, no, you need to chime in. This is your.
Some of the items that are on here could have been handled through committee, brought to the council, small presentation, done. Instead, no offense to anybody, we spent 30 minutes discussing ABC when it could have been the committee has reviewed this is what the committee as a whole has come up with, the other two members chime in, the residents get to say and that's what the commission meetings are for. They are for the residents. We handle everything in committee. It comes to the council, the two members chime in. If there's a presentation, there's a presentation. I understand that, but it shouldn't be 10 o'clock at night when people are getting home.
I understand what you're saying. I just think that everything that we went through tonight, everybody, like the people gave their opinion. Like I don't know what would have not been said. You know what I mean? Okay. Like when Tischler Bice came up, like everything that we went through about Tischler Bice,
we shouldn't even have had it on the agenda.
That was important.
But what I'm saying is that it shouldn't have been on the agenda. It should have been taken care of in committee. And then the committee chair would have said, I've spoken with Tischler, this is where we're at. It shouldn't be us engaging each other trying to figure out what's going on. Everything should go through committee. But if
when there's a solution to it, then it comes to council for a vote because you've already resolved it at committee. So when they're not here, that makes sense. I think the sense of urgency to Tischler Bice was because I felt like
I understand that. But what I'm saying is,
but to your point,
I've been seeing the commission meetings taking longer and longer and longer, and I've been asking residents why aren't they attending, and they aren't attending because they're taking so long. And their biggest thing was, we're up here talking too much. And we are.
We're talking about importance.
Because piggybacking on what, you're not supposed to be surprised at what's on the agenda. If you're not on that committee, that's understandable. But some of this stuff, I'm on a committee and I didn't even know it was there. So it needs to be brought to the committee. From the committee, it comes to council. We have adopted Robert's Rules of Parliamentary Procedure and that's it. There's no deviating from that.
Listen, Councilperson Mathis, and on that point, I'm not going to argue, I agree. And I think that we all need to revisit it and we need to respect it, and I do agree.
I gave you a cheat sheet.
And with that said, we need to be more proactive in the committees that we belong in, and then we take it from there. And if we have something to committee, go through the clerk, because that is the proper procedure. And hopefully by the time, when things are put in the agenda, there should be no surprise. That I agree with. There should be no surprise. Most of the discussion should have already happened, and then whoever put the item on the agenda should brief the commission why that item is there. And then we take it from there and we make a vote. So we all got to make a collective, concerted effort to move forward in the proper way.
Thank you, Councilperson Mayor.
No, thank you. That was very good. Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay, perfect. So, Mayor's report, everything I've really had to say, I've said throughout the meeting. I just want to reiterate that we have our backpack giveaway. We have a National Night Out next Tuesday. So that's, I'm going to talk about that in public safety. The one thing that I'll be working on for the most of the month, among other things, is the State of the Village address is sort of going to be hyped up in the sense it's really about our history. It is our 80th anniversary, so I'm working around that presentation and what that's going to look like. It's not really what we're doing and what we've done in the last year. It's more how did we get here today? I mean, we have 80 years that we're celebrating, so I'm already talking to like former mayors are going to be here and sort of make it about kicking off our 80th anniversary. We've been sort of doing that throughout the whole year with all our events, but that's sort of my intent. I'm going to have old mayors here speaking and so on and so forth. So I'm looking forward to that. We started doing the State of the Village address on the 4th Tuesday of August to sort of keep the trend. That's what we do. We already meet on the 4th Tuesday, and August is the only month we do not meet. So that's why we're doing it on the 4th Tuesday. Just for those of you that don't know, it's here at 7 o'clock, the same time our commission meeting would be. We have a few businesses that have already opened. For all of you that know, I think there's a few on 87th Street. We should go welcome them. They wanted ribbon cutting, but they're not ready for that yet. The doctor that was here earlier, she wants a ribbon cutting, but not until like September. She was waiting for the front stuff to be done, but now we just pushed that to committee. That's fine, but she wants that. I've been working really hard with a couple of people so that by the end of the year, I know I said end of the summer, it's probably not going to happen. I don't know where summer is gone, but the community photos up on the website, there's so much to put up there. We have a big blog, we have a section for that, so that now my commitment is not the end of the summer, it's going to be end of the year. That's among other, we have the Horseman has a new principal, so now I'm going to be working with them with I don't have the name at the top of my head, but yeah, Maycock got promoted to principal at Edison, so we're going to have a new principal. And we have started an education compact. Miami Shores just finished theirs, so they're now moving on to us, and we started with them. So we're going to have to sort of like bring in the new principal to our sort of the game that we would like to do with Horsemen, in the hope that as the school year starts, we kick off on a positive note. And that really, I'll talk a little more in public safety, but that concludes my report for the mayor's report. Next, we have David Roseman.
Thank you, Mayor. My report is going to be very, very brief. Clearly, I have been the topic of some very, very serious allegation. I just wanted to say that I have not had a more uncomfortable period of time in my professional life than these past 2 weeks. I have said repeatedly on the record that, this is a relationship, a contractual relationship. The day that this council feels that I no longer am suitable to lead the administration, I will be happy to take my toys and go elsewhere. I will be happy to provide a transition process so that the next person that comes along does not have to go through what I and my team have had to go through. I love public service. This is what I've always done. This is what I'll probably die doing or teaching. And I do value my reputation as a professional. Sometimes I don't do things particularly in the way that others would like for me to do it, but I have to balance the responsibilities and the demands of not only the five of you, but also the residents in the community who expect, quick reaction. Sometimes I feel overwhelmed, and I ask for forgiveness for that. We all can be better at our jobs, and I know that I could definitely be much better at my job. But I ask that in the pledge of civility, as I see on the podium, that we understand that this is a very, very serious and heartfelt commitment on my part to work here. This is not something that I do just because of the excellent salary that you pay me or the wonderful conditions in which I labor. This is something that I really am taking on and pledge to do to the best of my abilities, and I continue to seek your support in doing so. But again, if that fails to be something that continues, I will be fine to just say that's fine. There's time for new leadership, but there's time for a new person at the helm, and I would have no qualms about accepting that decision. It's not something that is going to be met with any kind of angst or reaction or negative consequences. I'm a public servant. I was born to be one. I will die being one. I'm very proud of the time that I have been here, and I do this with my heart in my hand. So I just wanted to make sure that I'm on the record, sharing with you that I'm very, very disappointed that these allegations have come up, and I just want to make sure that we can move forward on a clean slate. And if it is the wish of this council not to continue my contract, I will accept it without any kind of reaction or any kind of problem. But just do not, please understand that this is something that I do to the best of my abilities and without any kind of reservations with regards to not meeting your expectations. I do the best that I can, but if it's not meeting your desire, your expectation, I would understand. And I just want to thank you for this amazing year that I have had here at Airport Town. So I don't want to be moved to tears, but so that concludes
your report?
my report.
Okay, can we go to Public Affairs, Chairperson Nickerson?
Yeah, I know everybody's, it's getting late, so I'll speed it right along. First of all, it's always good to see everybody here who came out. Good to have everybody here, the clerk, Madam Clerk, Mr. Manager. How you doing, brother? What's going on, Jason? Also, Kyle, how you doing behind the camera? It's always good to have you there, my brother. The mayor told you guys already that her State of the Village address is August 22nd, and that's at 7 p.m. And it's going to be a wonderful State of the Village address, as everyone that she always has had so far. We went over the 80th anniversary. I want to thank the mayor for heading that up also. And we decided tonight that we will look to have the actual dance party gala / on December the 9th, which is a Saturday. But the actual date will be December the 7th. Okay. Tomorrow, July 26th at 11 a.m.
Wait, did you say that we're having the event on December 7th? I thought we did. I
No,
thought we
he's
chose the
saying
9th.
that's the incorporation.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay. Sorry.
I said both dates.
Okay.
I said
Sorry,
both dates.
sorry.
I said, no, you're good.
December 9th,
Yeah, I
okay.
said both. Tomorrow, the July 26th, the mayor is heading up the Seniors First, which is Emergency Disaster and Human Response, Hurricane Response Seminar, and that's here at the Village Hall tomorrow at 11 a.m. I'll try to join that if I can get away from work, from the union office. Tuesday, August the 1st, and she will talk about that also later on. So I'll just hold that off, and that will be the National Night Out and the mayor's annual backpack giveaway. You can hear the police sirens around 6:45. Hopefully you'll be there to join us as always. And 7:30 will be the actual backpack giveaway. She'll go more into detail about that. Speaking of the backpack giveaway, at least right into this, and the mayor mentioned it, but Horace Mann has a new principal, and the principal's name is Kevin Lawrence.
Kevin Lawrence.
The principal's name is Kevin Lawrence. Me and Kevin Lawrence have worked together for like 8 years. And we worked together downtown and Miami-Dade Public Schools. He used to be the vice principal of Booker T. I did a lot of work at Booker T. And actually, I'm wearing the College Summit T-shirt tonight. Him and myself and another individual, we started College Summit at various high schools, and we actually have graduated more students from low-income high schools and more students from colleges. So that there's a lot of students that go into college and drop out. We were together, and I headed up that division, and he worked with me, and we graduated more students from the inner city out of colleges than anybody else in this region, which includes Alabama, Georgia, and all that for the past like 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's a big disciplinarian. I was actually he wanted to be here tonight actually. But he had a meeting that he had to go to after we had our College Summit meeting, and he actually texted me while we were here, and he wanted to send a message real quick. So this is what he says. There's Mr. Lawrence. So he says, this is outstanding to be a part of the El Portal community. He said, thank you very much. He said, please know that all your efforts and support is greatly appreciated. I want to thank the mayor. I want to thank the vice mayor. I want to thank I gave him all your names. He said, I want to thank Councilperson Roman. I want to thank Councilperson Mathis. I want to thank Councilperson Dreyer. He said, I'm looking forward to being a part of the El Portal community. He said, we are all family. And he put hashtag family and a hashtag respect. So that's what he sent about an hour ago. So thank you very much for that. And we're just looking forward to, as the mayor said, working alongside him. And me and him have been working together for many years. So thank you for that. Madam Mayor, that would be my support.
Thank you. Councilperson Dre, Public Works.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I'm just going to ask you to first start. I know you added couple bullet points
No,
to the agenda.
the nature trail is ongoing, and we're working on it. And then the public works vehicles, I took it out, and it's combined with the vehicles that we may be getting, so I'll put it in public safety.
Super. And just to be brief, just tomorrow, just want to remind the residents and to the council, we have our Public Works info session on the septic tank to sewer conversion phase 1. So I think we already have sent out the communications. So if you're not able to attend tomorrow, Wednesday, we got scheduled.
What time?
Excuse me?
What time tomorrow?
7 o'clock. And if you're not able to make it on the 2nd, tomorrow we're going to have a second optional session on August the 2nd at 7 p.m. So just a quick note, I did see the communication on the 2018-2019 appropriations, list that we need to come up. I did take the liberty to talk to one of our senators, and she was pretty gung-ho for moving forward with this project to request funding, and that's Campbell. She did provide with the specific forms, and she suggested she wants to move forward as soon as possible with completing the forms. So based on that email that was communicated to us, specifically just an hour or 2 hours after I met with, it's pure coincidence though on the timing, but I just want to make sure, how do we handle this? Based on that note, what should we communicate to the senator?
It's not a problem. Yes, because they called me.
Yes.
They called because they know the process, and they wanted to be sure this is something that we had gone. That's why it was important. And I'll take sort of blame for that, because really the email should have gotten to you guys already in July. We always talk about the legislative session in July, and we ask the councils to start thinking of priorities.
Correct.
And the council, most likely we're going to agree on it, but the council, each and every single one of us come with 2 ideas. And then we talk at the budget workshop, and then we decide what is it that we're going to work on through the lobbying efforts and through the money that we may get additional through the ad valorem. So let's say next year we're going to get an additional 220 from the ad valorem tax roll that we just got. We're going to decide, okay, so we're going to have 220 extra next year. How is that going to be used? That's why for the last couple of years we've put it to public safety. So when it was sent to me, yes, they did contact me.
Correct.
Because they wanted to know if that's something that we were doing. And I said, it may be, but we haven't had that budget workshop. And then it reminded me that I hadn't sent that email out. So it was important, and they wanted direction. So that's why I sent it to the manager, and I had the clerk send it to all of you. We all have to chime into that. We all have to get our priorities in. And then at the August workshop, we will solidify that, and then we will move forward based on whatever priorities we decide as a council.
So just a quick question. Is it fair to communicate to the senator, based on her urgency to move forward with this project, should I just say, based on today's council meeting, based on this email, we're holding off until August the 18th to complete the application, or should we proceed with moving forward with submitting the application for the phase 1 drainage project?
She said the applications have to be in the first week. I mean, I think the senator gets, gets very excited. We can have the budget workshop. We can solidify it all there. I think each of us have to come up with our priorities, and then at the budget workshop, which is August 10th, correct? Is it August 10th? We can solidify it there.
So at this time, we'll not proceed with completing any applications, and this is to make sure we are fully in communication. We are all in sync, because there was,
you can fill out the application, but the point is policy here.
Policy.
The point,
Yes, and I wanna follow policy,
the point is that we have to. Well, right now we're out of Robert Rules and Order.
Correct.
That's number one, right? Which he just talked about. So, I mean, I don't want to go into it in great length. Let's all of you get the priorities to the manager, to the clerk, and we discuss it at the budget. We're going to make fine the committees to Senator Campbell and to the House and the Senate. She wants it in right now. I know we're not going to miss the deadline. To your concern. You're not going to miss the deadline.
So based on this communication, then we'll move forward with submitting the application then. That's what I'm understanding. Just so I'm okay. Yeah. We're not, or we are?
We should wait till, collectively, we
should
agree, we should have the budget workshop, which is what we do, and then we all agree on that.
Perfect, so that's what
And it could very well be that project, and then we get the ball rolling.
So
it doesn't hurt to take a look at applications, it doesn't hurt to do any of that, but we still have to agree on what we're doing.
Okay, so that's what I'm going to be communicating to the senator. Based on tonight's meeting, we're going to be holding off from officially submitting the application based on the August 10th budget workshop that we're going to have, budget workshop, right? We're going to decide on the priorities. So, all right.
Now, keep in mind, if you want to come into the August 10th workshop with your priorities, and your priorities has the applicant attached to it, we're not going to say no. So you can still download the application. You can still fill out the application. And hey, when you come to the budget workshop and you say, my two priorities are A and B. Oh, and by the way, I have the application right here filled out, council. So you can always do that.
No, we can always do that, but her expectation is to have this application completed by August.
You can give her a call tomorrow.
August 1st? Yeah.
No,
she wants to move forward immediately with this.
You can give her a call
we
tomorrow.
can, look at the application, have like a draft of it by the workshop. That's not a problem.
Not a problem.
My point is that we have the same communication to her based on what happened. They contacted you, so I'm just going to refrain officially communicating. We're not going to submit the application. We're just going to meet on the budget workshop on August 10th.
And then they're going to hear from the manager immediately thereafter.
Yeah. So
Perfect.
Those are my two updates, and thanks very much.
Public safety. As Vice Mayor Nickerson said, we have an emergency preparedness seminar tomorrow that everyone's invited. It is geared toward our older community. We have a company that came in, and they are going to be giving away a fantastic a cooler with like a phone, a flashlight, and a whole miscellaneous things, and it's geared to predominantly our senior community, but everybody's welcome to attend for tips on emergency preparedness and disaster preparedness. And that's tomorrow from 11 to 1, and they bring lunch, so it's no cost to the village. So I want to thank them for that. And that was a referral by Commissioner Edmondson, so I need to thank her for that. This year for National Night Out and the Mayor's Backpack Giveaway, we're going to do something a little different. We want to not just do the siren parade and come have backpacks and leave. We're going to do a little bit extended and extended sort of festivities. And I'm proud to say that we have several community partners that have already volunteered and donated. We have the North Miami JCs, we have State Farm, we have Dr. Okanwa. We have the El Portal Women's Club. And we have, I think those are the 5. And basically what they have all done is the DJ is donated, the snow cone machine is donated, the popcorn machine is donated, the food is going to be donated. We have light food, not a lot of food, light food. And what is the other thing that's donated? I don't remember. And then I forgot waste management, because they donate the backpacks. And then historically for the last couple of years, either the monies for the supplies I put in myself, or I use my own discretionary. This year I've run out of discretionary, so it looks like it's going to come out of Claudia. So that's where historically the mayor's backpack is something that Daisy Black started, and I'm sort of just continuing that on. And that's going to be Tuesday, August 1st, so join us. It should be very nice. And of course, all the police officers will be here doing a siren parade. I know Ignacio Carroll has always been a part of it. Even if he can't make it because he's out of town, he always brings somebody in. And Station 30 from Miami Shores has already emailed saying they're going to be here. So that's Tuesday, August 1st. When we had the police staff meeting, the chief made mention that they got a call from Sunny Isles. The last couple of months, I haven't really said it much, but I've been working with the Northeast Miami-Dade mayors, some of the ones that I have a relationship with, in the hopes that we can get some public works or police vehicles, not an auction, maybe they'll do like a sister city thing. So Sunny Isles looks like they're coming through, where we probably would get, I don't remember what the chief said, David, I think 3 police vehicles, and then from another town, there's going to be 2 public works vehicles. The current public works truck that we have now was donated by Miami Beach several years ago. So we're just looking, as Public Works is expanding and we're doing more, I was trying to see what other vehicles we can get, and it looks like we might be able to get 2 trucks, so that would be really exciting. So I hadn't said much, but now that they've actually called and I think they're going to do something, I think that I wanted to go ahead and bring it up. So it looks like they're going to bypass their having to auction it, because most cities you have to auction it. They're going to bypass it through just relationships, whatever, and I think that the police officers are actually going to get an SUV, so I think it's going to be a nice sort of addition to our mix right now. We did start the Public Safety Committee. We talked about the Labor Management Committee, and to answer your question, the PBA contract, Article 9, says that the Public Safety Chair can start a committee, and that committee can have the opportunity to just go through evaluations or proper promotions or equipment, and just sort of give that department some time more than public safety, and then that committee will make recommendations to the Public Safety Committee based on monies or whatever avenue maybe they want to go. And then the committee is taking the opportunity to review the officers, or 6 officers that have put in for a full-time position. We are going to replace Officer Rigo hopefully this fiscal year. And as a result, we're interviewing August 9th, I believe, 6 officers. The officers that have put their names in, if my memory serves me correctly, is Officer Battaglia, Officer Benitez, Officer Rojas, Officer Boisned, Officer Pineda, he's new, and then I'm missing one. There's one more officer. Who? Oh, Officer Newman. He was actually here earlier. So those are 6 officers that have put their application in. The committee just gives an opinion. At the end of the day, it's the chief and the manager's decision who gets hired. We do all the legwork and research, and then they end up making the decision. That concludes my report. Police vehicles. Councilperson Dre made a recommendation. You're going to let us know at the budget workshop whether or not that's an avenue that we're going to go. I did make a note here. I got an email on police evaluations that they're not ready, and I got that email. The body cameras. Were they sold back finally? Because it looks like he had done that week. Did we get the money? Do we have much money?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I'll have to follow up on that.
Okay. And that concludes my report. Code enforcement chairperson.
Nothing to report.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you didn't hear. What did you say?
Nothing to report.
Oh, okay.
Chairperson, me for planning and zoning, Tischler Bice, as you see here, I update on impact. That was moved to July committee meeting, and that was the one thing that I had pending there for for P&Z. Admin and finance?
We solidified the workshop for August 10th. I also want to look into that, the evaluations. I'll talk to you about that. I'll give you a call tomorrow on that, David. And just remind everybody that we're under Robert's Rule of Parliamentary Procedure.
Right.
What evaluations?
Mr.
What
Chair,
How, either drafting or coming up with them. I enjoy doing that, yes.
neither the attorney nor I have received copies of the evaluation. He asked me to request, copies so that.
Yours and his?
And his.
Oh, I haven't, that's another thing that I wanted to discuss about. I wanted to deal with that in unfinished business, setting a date for that.
You're going to do it on unfinished business? Okay. You said you were going to talk to David about what evaluations?
The chief and the police.
Oh, okay,
evaluations.
okay. You're to come up with the actual form?
Yeah.
Okay. I like that idea. Okay. Did Attorney Geller get back to you?
Yes.
Okay.
A couple of things. I guess this could also be my report as well.
Okay.
So number one, as far as the issue.
Can you speak on the mic so that it?
Yeah. So as far as the issue that you wanted me to check about, as long as the revising that resolution, as long as we pick a date certain, for example, the September meeting, that will give us time to work the language of the proposed resolution with the variance, with the conditions, get it to Joe for approval, or go back and forth. And as long as you pick a date certain, you do not have to renotice it and go through that process. Only if you have tabled it to an indefinite date would you have to renotice it. Since you announced here tonight that you do it to a date certain, then you're fine.
Okay.
And as far as the other thing for us, you had earlier asked about if we could assist with the developer contracts from earlier in the evening, and we, of course, could assist with giving samples or discussing that more down the road.
Let's just if you can get that to our manager and clerk so they can get it to us.
Yeah, sample, that's what.
Yes, 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 okay.
And so when do we want to meet?
I'm sorry?
When do we want to get that?
When
by?
can the attorney get it to our manager?
As far as the
development agreement, some samples, I mean, he agreed so that we can start, doing our own homework.
It shouldn't be too long at all, but probably by the next commission meeting.
No, we want to discuss it at the budget workshop.
I can ask for it the next couple of weeks. I'm sure someone, I don't know exactly who at the firm it is, but I know we have, I know it was without any hesitation, we have people.
Okay, well, we're gonna email you and that individually.
The 4th, maybe?
Okay.
August 4th?
We can have it by the 4th so that we can review it for the.
August 4th?
I could definitely ask. I don't think it should be a problem. I'm sure we.
Okay, this is a week. Okay, so we'll
August
put it on
4th,
August
and then-
4th.
so what are we
To
gonna
get
do
to get to the manager and to the clerk, yeah.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I mean, if it's just getting examples, I can get them in the next couple of days.
Okay.
I mean, examples are easy to come by.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Okay.
I would hate to double up on.
Okay, so you're gonna get us the samples and not necessarily.
Or them. I don't mind. Whatever's easiest.
Did you say all three? I thought you just meant about impact fees. You said a development agreement, you had some samples as well?
We can get development agreements.
Okay.
And we can look at what the thresholds are for impact fees.
Okay, so we'll get into from you, so we'll have it for the council meeting, okay? Okay. Okay. Okay.
So what about the variance?
I'm going to go into the right next. Okay, so we've heard from Jason with regards to the variance. At this time, do you have, I'm sorry, does the commission have any motion based on what Attorney Geller has said with the variance about the driveway?
So I motion to bring it to the September meeting with the variance, the new written variance, so that we can vote on it.
Second, Madam Mayor.
I'm sorry.
Wait, before
Yeah.
we need clarity on that, because Juana's going to be a part of that. You don't understand what she just said.
No, you're saying that you want to bring it back with the language for the conditions.
Correct.
No, not the variance. The variance
Correct.
is
The
the applicant.
conditions, I'm
Okay.
sorry, the language for the conditions that our attorney has suggested, that we set a date. So,
Those conditions will have to be, I mean, I would have to go through this whole thing and then get it denied. Those conditions, I assume, will have to be negotiated with the applicant.
correct.
Because if the attorney comes up with a language that then the applicant doesn't agree, then
Right.
we're back square one.
Right.
So first, we'll have to discuss with the applicant, David and I, something that is agreeable. For that, I'm sorry
plenty of
to be
time.
a stickler for things, but I just
Yeah,
want to
no,
get
no,
things
no.
going. For that to happen, I need some guidance as to where the council stands with regards to the
Can I put you in charge of that?
to the conditions that the application proposes that are counter to the code.
So, can I make a recommendation?
Sure.
I don't know, my recommendation is, Councilperson Roman wants to make a motion that we revisit it with an exact date, so it doesn't have to be noticed.
Right.
And to come back to us with another form of driveway with conditions as it relates to the surrounding areas, permeable. But then the component that I want to add is as Councilperson Mathis is not voting on this, can he work with you on this?
Oh dear.
Because that'll just assign someone to work on this since he's not voting on it anyway, and then come back to us with something in September that we can pass. You know, I think you see our resistance as it relates to, flooding, driveway, permeable, reality of families, but then you have people that have, so, what are going to be the parameters in the block and the street, all of that wonderful planning language.
Again, I hate to be a stickler for
I
what
want you
seems
to
be details, and I don't want to make this meeting longer than it has to be, but the code establishes a way that everybody needs to abide by.
Yes.
Variances are a way to get around some of these conditions based on extraneous conditions.
Yes.
Typically a parcel that is a triangle or something that doesn't allow you to go by the code.
Yes.
In this case, which if it was the case, it would be very easy for me and for you, because you'd say, well, if the lot or the situation doesn't allow you to follow the code, then therefore there's a variance. In this case, the situation, as far as we see it, is not there. There's no condition that I would be able to say, yes, the code cannot be applied here. So it's even I can work with anybody that you want. I'll be happy to talk to the applicant again. I'll be happy to meet, but you're still not giving me the direction that where I can stand on. You're not giving me the platform or the way that you want me to take this variance.
I think I know where they're coming from, because I'm not voting on it, but I listened to everything in the back, and I'll give you a call tomorrow, and we'll come up with something, and you have to give it to the clerk, and she can...
Can we do that? Can the motion be vague enough where we say, we set the motion with an exact date of the September commission meeting for the planner, the applicant, and the manager, and Councilperson Mathis to be signed on this with the conditions based on the conversation we've had on this meeting?
And that's what I confirmed, Mr. Geller, and that's why you're picking that date certain, and you're getting time to work on that language to confirm more, because your concerns were all about these special conditions language and what you can't do and why. Because you have concerns, as Juan said, you don't want everyone to come up.
So
that's the point of getting more time to work on a language to tailor it to what you want.
To see if it's something that we can actually vote on and agree on. So we're giving the applicant a happy medium.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mayor. And at the risk of muddling the waters, we had talked about swell treatment for some time, which may be one of those things that may need to be addressed in the context of this discussion, because basically the issue is, as you drive into this, you create this muddy, unsightly, situations. So I don't know if this is something that needs to be picked up at this point. I know that this was something that you have been trying to get us to look at.
Yeah.
So Jason, going back to what the manager has said, what we have said, can we say we're going to move this to the September council meeting based on conditions that the council has expressed, the manager's expressed, and that Councilperson Mathis says he's not going to be a voting member, will work on with the applicant and Juan if they can bring us back something?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a motion. Do I have a second for that? Second by Councilperson Dre. Do we understand that?
I do.
Okay. So, Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call? I didn't ask for this guy.
Motion, Okay, and you second.
Second by Dre.
Okay. Roll call. Councilperson Dreher.
Yes.
Councilperson Roman.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Mayor Cubillos.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. 4-0.
Okay.
To September.
We're trying here.
To
We're
September.
trying. Okay. So we're going to move to unfinished business.
Thank you.
No, Juan, thank you for being patient with us and your.
Need to set a date to proceed with the process for the evaluations, and also I need to get a copy of the evaluations to
Yes.
the evaluees. When we have the budget hearing for when? August 10th. I'd like to do it as soon as possible.
I'm looking at my calendar.
So I'm going to ask the committee members to look at their calendars, and we can come up with a date. If we could do it this week, it'd be great.
The only date I'm available left this week is, the 26th, we have the workshop here that night.
Right.
The 27th, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I'm not here, so I wouldn't be able to do it.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I'm not.
Councilperson Roman?
Yeah, my week is really,
It would have to be Thursday night, but
Can you do Thursday night, Councilperson Roman?
no, I have a commitment that night. I have a commitment every single night this week.
what about August 5th?
What about, I was going to say, what about the 2nd?
August 2nd, he has his workshop,
Oh.
the informational session. And the 3rd, I have a league meeting.
Fourth?
And that's a Friday.
Yeah.
Saturday the 5th, no? I already had penciled in for this. The 4th,
for
the 4th and the 5th is
was
fine.
going to be the, okay.
Yeah.
Is the 5th okay with you, Councilperson Roman? In the morning, 10 o'clock?
That's
Okay.
fine.
10 o'clock on the 5th.
Okay. Not 10 p.m., 10 a.m.
I'll bring bagels.
And this is for
The special.
those special admin and finance
Yes.
with the evaluations.
That's to take place of the one from a couple weeks ago.
Okay, got it.
And I will have the clerk forward the evaluations to the clerk and have her.
Yes, I need those.
Anything else in unfinished business?
No, but new business.
Huh?
New business.
No, yeah, I'm going to do that right now. Yeah, I'm not going to bring that up. We were talking about. Commissioner Sejas, would you like to say a few? Yes.
Thank you very much. My name is Natasha Sejas, 7475 Northwest 167 Terrace. You know, the reason you're taking so long is very simple. Sunshine law. You have to talk to each other. You have to make decisions. You have to be able to express yourself. You have to be able to let the people know how you think. And the sunshine law exists for everybody down here, while the people in Tallahassee
They don't have to abide
go
by
for
that.
it. No, it's only if there's 3 of them, but 2 no. So, you know, so really, and Robert's Rules did not know about sunshine law, by the way. So, you know, I commend you. It's been kind of interesting being on the other side, you know, and just being quietly listening to you. And I think you made a good deal of the things that you have talked. They have been important, like the Vice Mayor said. But thank you, Mayor Cubillos. I really appreciate it. I just came to tell you, and I'm going to give it to the clerk, a permit that my daughter has. I'm representing my daughter, Tina Millan, who lives at 30 Northwest 89th Street. She's not here because she travels around all the time, and she's never around. So, Mama decided that that's what I'm going to be doing. Not as a commissioner, just as like an old mother. You will be my age by the end of this year, by the way. So I will celebrate with you the 80 years. But I'm going to leave you the timeline and the things that happened. She had a permit to fix the front of her house and to do the driveway and the front. The permit was approved. There was a request to make it a smaller part, her front of her house. She did that. They came and approved that also, and that was done June the 22nd. That inspection passed. Everything was fine. They continued to work. And then that thing that you were talking about, the echo issue, it was artificial turf. in between the slats, so there will be permeability. Instead of having a big flat, as you were talking about, and you were talking about all that concrete, I think, my gosh, this is exactly what I have in front of me. But it had artificial turf in the middle. They were not sure, and they mean well, because if anything, I think the employees of any city or the county are the ones that need to be respected, because they make us all look good. So my respect to whoever had this and said it needs to stop. But there is no ordinance in the county at all, trust me, that keeps them from having the turf in between the pavers. Yeah, I forgot what it's called. I was saying it in Spanish, and that didn't make any difference right now. And so they want to be able to continue their work. Everything else has been stripped. They have stopped. One of the things my daughter does, she's lived here for 14 years and doesn't want to live anywhere else. She picked this place, she loved this place, she adores this place, and she fixes her house. And I mean, it really is, I admire her for loving it so much, because I don't love where I live that much. I can leave and go to North Carolina for a while, and not a problem. But I'm going to leave the paperwork. Don't take any more of your time. I'll leave it with the manager or the clerk, and she can give it to her. And there's a timeline and everything that happened, a picture of how it was before and how she would look for it then. And we do need an answer, please. Of
What's the address again?
30 Northwest 89th Street. It's a corner street.
And what is her name?
Tina. Well, you
What is
know her. Millan. M-I-L-L-A-N.
M-A-K?
M-I-L-L-A-N.
Oh, okay, Tina Miller. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
And it's all there. I really don't think there's that much of a problem there. I think it's just a matter of focusing on what you want to see happen with your very unique village. You are unique. But this, I want, please to get it moving as soon as you can.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. And don't worry about being called council. My biggest thing was being a councilwoman in the city of Hialeah. Forget about anything else I've been after that. Being a councilwoman in the city of Hialeah was my first elected place. That was where I was proud of. So you were fine. Absolutely. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for being here. New business.
You need to swear in the acting chief.
We don't have to talk about that. What? I have two things coming to me about the same person. Vice Mayor Nickerson wants me to bring up Sergeant Huffnagel with regarding to ongoing funding for Arctic. Is that true? Okay, you're coming up. Okay. I was like, why? Okay, fine, we can do that. Let me go look at her face.
Good evening. I just actually wanted to see if we can start the ball running when it comes to the nonprofit organization, due to the fact that it's a lot easier for me to ask for sponsors if we are a nonprofit organization, because it's a give and take.
You get the paperwork and I'll fill it out.
We talked about it. We talked about it at the admin and finance, and that we were going to have it done for our 80th anniversary.
So the ball is running.
So in honor of Libby Bowen, it's going to be yes. We're going to get it done.
Great, thank you.
Might as well stay up because this has to be sworn in because
there's some administrative issues that are involved.
Okay, so the chair of admin and finance has given me an oath of office. So in the interim of the current situation that we're dealing with the chief, to swear in the Sergeant Huffnagel as the acting chief of the you have misspelled.
I was.
All right.
There's a form.
This wraps up our meeting today. Okay, so we have here a oath of office as we're going through ongoing. So State of Florida, County of Miami-Dade. Raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and government of the United States.
That I will support and protect the Constitution.
The Constitution and government
of the United States.
and of the State of Florida.
And of the State of Florida.
and I am duly qualified to hold office
and I'm duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
perform the duties of acting chief of the El Portal Police Department,
perform the duties of an acting chief of the El Portal Police Department,
on which I am now about to enter.
on which I am now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right, thank you. Thank you. So let us know.
But I meant to.
Huh? A what?
They do? That's good luck.
Anybody now, anybody new, anybody in good and welfare would like to come up and say anything? No. All right, hearing none, does there have a motion for adjourn? Motion's been made by Councilperson Mattson, second by Councilperson Roman. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against?
No.
Our July 25th council meeting ended at 10:55 PM. Thank you.